All right, we'll get started. We'll call to order the City Council for June 5th, 2018. The clerk will call the roll and record who's in attendance.
Anderson Burgos,
Here.
Bartley,
Here.
Bresnahan, Leahy, LeBron Martinez, Lisi, McGee, McGivern,
Here.
Roman,
Here.
Sullivan, Tallman,
Here.
Bacon, Valentine.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
In the City of Holyoke.
City Council.
All right, so we have a lengthy agenda and some late files as they're still coming in. With that, we'll try and move things along. Councilor Leahy will not be here tonight. I believe he is away. With that, laid on the table was item 1, the budget. We'll leave it laid on the table.
Motion to take off the table and receive the budget. Second.
Second.
Didn't we already receive it?
We already received it.
Yeah.
Motion to take off the table and pass the second reading.
Lack of a second. So it's laid on the table, it was received last meeting. Also laid on the table was item 2, which was $75,000 free cash for special counsel fees, and item 3, which was from reserve officer and snow tow to pay for repair on vehicles, which I do believe was the police department. Any action on 2 and 3? No? Okay. So public comment, there is one for public comment. Their address is 72 Congress Ave, but Illinois, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, one L.
Oh, 1L, okay, so with that, I thought you were out of town, and we're going to have to suspend rules here, so with that, 1L. Your name, and you're the only one, so. Just tap on it, please. On a switch underneath.
Is that on?
There you go.
Right.
Thank you very much.
So I'm Nancy Capron, or Nev Capron, and I live at 72 Congress Ave, apartment 1L. And so I get so nervous, like, so I was here to, and I'm just talking with Rebecca, maybe I misunderstood. I was here to speak to her order to petition the general court to enact legislation to allow in the city of Holyoke the sale of marijuana products as those terms are defined, blah, 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 for consumption on premises where sold. See attached draft legislation. Before I got here, I was over at Holyoke Hummus, and there were 3 gentlemen there discussing business, and one of them had just bought a 6-apartment building at 1475 Dwight Street. Well, maybe had bought something on Jackson Street and Hamden Street, and they were discussing being outside the. One gentleman had driven up to the San Juan Bakery, and someone had approached him and asked him for money for a slice of pizza. And these guys were discussing whether or not they're going to buy a 4th or 5th building here in Holyoke. Young guys, and to me it's astounding to have that kind of economic resources. And when they were discussing the person that had asked them for money to buy pizza, they were making fun of the person. They were making fun of, like, I had my hand on my wallet. I told them, hey, they were joking about, imagine conversations where trying to guarantee the person that they had nothing of value in their car. I know, Brenna, you always look at me like, I've been here twice. Like, you always wonder where I'm going. But but I turned around and I said, I find your conversation offensive. And I do. I found that offensive. One guy said, well, I'm not saying any particular race or ethnicity. I would have pegged the Irish for no, I'm just kidding, guys. But, and so I said to him, well, if they were upper middle class would you be telling this story? If the upper middle class person came to you and asked you for a slice of pizza, would you be telling a story? And a guy got kind of aggressive with me and said no upper middle class person would ever ask for a slice of pizza. And I said, are you sure about that? And he said he lived on the planet. He was pretty sure. And my point is, I found the whole conversation offensive. I could list, tons of ways where upper middle class people have taken advantage of the poor. My favorite that still bothers me from the 1970s is the Nestle Corporation sending formula into the third world when they knew that the water was dirty and it was going to kill the children. And I'll stop there. And we can go on and on and on with instances of abuse of the people by the upper middle class, right? Or the upper classes, And and when people approach me and ask for money, I'm often scared, right? I chastise myself. I'm like, why am I not more aware of my surroundings, right? Because I'm a woman, and often these people may have substance abuse problems, but I don't. But I go home and I think about like systemic oppression, 40 years of stagnating wages, the evils of capitalism. I don't go around making fun of people for being poor. And these are people that are coming into this community and buying rental properties. And so briefly what I'll say about, the sale of the speed at which the marijuana industry is moving into Holyoke is that I'm not against marijuana. I don't smoke it myself. But that there's, in reading about other areas where marijuana has been legalized, it causes some sort of uptick in rents, and so it looks like it causes some process of gentrification. And my argument, it just seems like I don't understand why today we have to have the right to consume recreational marijuana in the place that we buy it. I feel like that in doing a little bit of research that I've done, that everybody who has brought marijuana into their communities, their suggestion is going forward to other communities is to do it slowly, to pay attention. It doesn't seem like it causes teenagers to use marijuana any more than they already do. It doesn't seem like it causes any real problems with driving under the influence of marijuana. But what it does seem to do is cause some sorts of economic disturbances that are detrimental to vulnerable populations like the poor, which I am one of. So I think that if we do this slowly and look at ways where, look for monies and look for ways where we could have worker-owned cooperatives and have the people that establish these businesses be local and not local people who already have the funds to buy a business, but to develop that in our community, we have the potential to create something great. And I went over, but those guys over there at the Holyoke Hummus, they've just bought a bunch of apartment buildings here, apparently in Holyoke, and they're kind of terrible people. And why don't we have nice people, good people who care about this community or connected to this community, be the people that own the property? Thanks.
Thank you. Next is communications. From the mayor, a letter reappointing Don Welch to serve a 3-year term for the Commission on Disabilities.
Motion to approve the reappointment.
Second.
Motion is approved, is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's been confirmed. 5 is a letter appointing Rachel Garber of 120 Morgan Street.
Receive, send to public service.
Second.
The public service is a 3-year term till February 2021. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 6 is a letter from the city solicitor regarding the hiring of an associate city solicitor.
Motion to receive.
Motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 7
with
is
11 and 12, please, or all meetings.
7 to 12.
7, 11, and 12.
Motion is to suspend the rules, take 7, 11, and 12 as a package. Their minutes to board meetings and the city clerk's minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed? Is there a motion to receive?
Receive them.
Motion is to receive. All those in
Second.
favor? All
Aye.
opposed? 8 is a communication from city auditor regarding the general fund and sewer fund.
Motion to receive and refer to finance.
Motion is receive and refer to finance. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed? Number 9 is from Alicia Zoller regarding the community development, a letter regarding the allocations.
Motion to receive.
Second.
Received, do you want to send it anywhere? DGNR or
Want it in DG?
copy of DGNR? All those in favor? All those opposed? And 10 is from Mike McManus, DPW. This is a update on the trees, the removal update that we asked for, of which we have 65 trees.
Motion
And
to
he's listed
receive.
there. Motion is to receive, refer to
Who?
finance, because it was in finance where they were looking for the
Ourselves.
money. But they did put it back into the computer system, which was very good. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Also, if you notice in the hallway, pictures are starting to come up. So that's very nice. So, Counselor Bartley, thank you for really pushing that, and it was very good to see it pop up.
Motion to suspend the rules, take up 11 and 12 as a package.
We took 11, 12 with 7, so we're now on to petitions.
I'm sorry, 13 and 14. I'm sorry.
No problem.
been a
13
long
and
day.
14, suspend the rules, take up as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to,
They're new special permit requests, so we should send them to ordinance to set up a public hearing.
all right, motion is to send to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 15 is a petition from Kelly as a special permit for a yoga class at 123 Homestead Ave.
DGR.
Motion to send to DGNR. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? President's report, we'll skip for the day because, oh, actually, no, we can't because we have the budget. And I was just talking to Dave, that's what threw me off. We have dates that I'm trying to block off for the budget. The 20th, 21st, 25th, 26th, 27th. I'm not saying we do them all those days. I'm just putting those dates out there. I know the 19th, we have a city council meeting, of which the question was, why can't we have the budget on that night? We passed a rule that we have the budget on a separate night from the full city council meeting, because that normally led us to 1, 2 in the morning for doing it. So the 18th is a Monday. 19th is a full city council meeting.
So the dates that you just proposed are not for budget hearings, but for the budget vote itself.
No, we can do both. We can do both. So one is we normally but we invite the mayor in to speak. We call in certain departments, police, fire, DPW being the main 3. I know certain departments have asked that they have a chance to come in and speak. So we can do that 2 nights in a row. We can do it 1 night, take a break. I'm just asking, I'm throwing out dates because I'm trying to grab them off the calendar because we're filling up with committee meetings as well. There's a bunch of late files coming in that's going to require Joe McGivern to try and tackle me and take some dates. So with that, I'm looking for a consensus as to those dates.
Did you say 20th and 21st?
Well, the 19th is a full city council meeting. We can do the 20th.
18th is DGNR.
18th is DGNR. 21st, so 20th is open, 21st is open.
I'd say
22nd's
do
open.
both.
Yeah, do both
20th
20th,
and
21st, and have
21st.
the vote on the 25th.
I do it on the 25th. Counselor Bartley, I do believe you had DGNR. It was a question mark at first for 25th, but I think you have something now.
It is.
And is there a public hearing for that as well?
No, not on that date, but we're scheduling for the state delegation that day. That's when they can come in together.
Okay.
And
So-
then I think there's another thing, a couple other things for Marcos that have to be held on that day.
Okay. No, just making sure.
Yeah.
So that would then be the 26th and 27th for,
We have something for ordinance on the 26th?
26th is ordinance.
Ordinance, 26.
is there anything pressing in ordinance at this time, or? I know, I'm
We
not,
could go to the summer. I mean, it's a big jacket, but it's always going to be a big jacket.
would the consensus be to do the 26th?
That's fine with me.
Everyone?
At 7? Would that be at 7 on the 26th?
Would you guys want to do 6:30 or
Well,
7?
I would be late. I have something at 6 in Hadley,
Okay.
so.
7
So
o'clock.
the 26th, we're shooting for taking up the budget, doing it that night, starting at 7.
Okay.
I'll be late.
What about the other nights?
Or- Yep, we can schedule for the 27th if need be. The 20 and 21st would be inviting departments in to discuss their budgets, if we have cuts that we want to make or not make.
I
Go ahead, Counselor Bacon.
think all department heads should expect to come in.
We can do it that way too. That's one thing I recommended, that everyone just come in and we can, if there's no questions for someone.
I mean, we have a $2.3 million gap
Yep.
and more spending coming in. Everybody needs to come in.
We can do that. Counselor McGivern, you had a question, or?
Just a couple thoughts. Maybe we should go back to the old way. Budget hearings are special meetings. Attendance should be taken, and we should take the motions to cut as we're with the department heads themselves and not wait to take a final vote on the budget. I think that's fair to the department heads, fair to city councilors that listen to a motion to cut so they can ask questions of a department head what this cut would have impact on their budget.
I support that.
We haven't even had quorums at the budget hearings.
I'm going to walk out if we don't have a quorum at a budget hearing because we're just not going to do the work for everybody.
But we didn't the last couple of years.
So, I understand the argument. If you don't get a quorum, that's just not going to happen. Back to the dates. Let's look at the dates first. So it's the 20th and 21st, with the 26th, and then maybe the 27th if the 26th we don't finish everything. Is that good for everybody?
What time do you want?
The 20th and 21st, would you like 6:30, 7 o'clock?
6:30.
6:30. Okay. The 26th is a Tuesday. That's for the budget. The hearings, they will be recorded. We can always allow, people can watch, the requests are there if you want to do it that way, if you can't make it. I understand the timeframes. So with that, we'll schedule them for 6:30, the 20th and 21st, 26th at 7, with a potential of the 27th at 7, most likely not to have it because we're going to try and finish on the 26th. That make sense?
Yep.
Counselor Bacon?
On the point about making the cuts at the hearings and not at the budget meeting itself, I disagree with that. I think we should all be in the room, and everybody's not going to make it to the hearings where we're gathering information.
Right,
I
I mean,
think-
if you don't have a quorum, you just can't do it. I understand
We're
the
still going to
intent.
have the hearing, right?
Of course we are, we are.
All right. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, we are.
okay, because I heard,
No.
that might not happen.
Counselor Lisi?
To Councilor McGivern's point, I think you incentivize attendance if the potential to hear from department heads and make cuts are there. And it would really help to expedite the process, because I think that we found ourselves at the final budget hearing making cuts, and department heads have not been able to explain to you what those dollars go to. And so we're really making cuts in the dark and not supporting City Hall's ability to create city services. So I absolutely support, I hope it incentivizes attendance and quorum.
Yep, we're going to ask everyone to be here. There will be conflicts for some people with work and stuff. We understand that. That's life, so we're going to do the best we can. Anything else? Counselor Bartley.
I had a conversation last night with Mr. Marrero that there's a possibility that he is going to ask the mayor or you to call a special meeting for the 28th. So I just want to make you aware of that, and that's relative to a MassWorks grant. So he advised me of that last night.
Very good, thank you
Okay.
very much. Also know that you might be subject to the 28th.
If we're meeting on the 27th, we probably, we could add it to the agenda, budget
If-
and,
Will he be ready, Counselor Bartley? Do you know, was there a magical time that the 28th was?
He did mention the 28th. So I'm sure as the days go forward, he'll elaborate.
he's got a meeting already scheduled.
We already have the 25th.
He's got a meeting that night, yeah.
So, and I'll call Marcos tomorrow and see what we can do.
He's got 2 meetings in a row.
Okay? Maybe see if he can, if we have to take up the 27th, if he could move it. We'll find out.
Sure.
If he says no, then we're stuck with it.
Either way's fine, just
But thank you for that.
repeat what he said.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, could you just clarify something for me? If at a budget hearing we have a quorum, can we go ahead and vote on certain items?
You'd have to, in essence, make the rule at that time and go and try and do that. If you don't have the quorum, it'd be moot.
I get that, but if we do have a quorum,
You can try, yeah.
That's correct, Counselor Sullivan.
right.
Mr. President, I'm going to regret asking this, but do we know what the 45-day is?
Well, it's from the last meeting. I'll have to check on that, Joe. I don't know off the top of my head. I thought we were within the time frame.
I think we're
We'll check.
okay, but
I thought we were.
I counted to the 27th one time.
That's why I'm saying the 27th is our last day, which would give us enough time. If you go to the 28th, then you're in trouble. Counselor Bacon, anyone else had a question or no?
I just wanted to make the point to the body that whatever votes we take have to be a majority of the whole.
Correct.
So if we're sitting there with 8 people in the room,
You don't
it's
have,
gonna be
yeah, correct.
sort of
No, you're
bad process, that's all.
Correct. All right, with that, anyone else have anything to report? I know Sunday is the parade in New York. If you're going, there are buses leaving. I know Councilor Valentin has buses. People still can sign up, or?
Yeah, there's 5 buses leaving from Springfield Plaza. There's a few seats left if people are interested. It's $40 per person round trip, and they can talk to me about that.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, with that, we'll move on. Reports of committee, ordinance being the first one. 16A, the Committee on Ordinance was referred, Article 1, Section 4218, permit fees for fire prevention and code. It's been signed off by Councilor Vacan, Bartley, and Anderson Burgos.
So a motion to pass the first reading?
Motion is to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the committee had a few meetings looking over the general ordinances, and then there was a specific order filed to do a review and amend the fees, because that was an area where there was agreement that it should be updated. They have been the same for many, many years without any change. So Counselor Sullivan, as the maker of the order, brought an updated chart to the committee meeting. And before us tonight is the updated chart that changed most of the old fees that were $25 to $50. If the fee was not before the committee, it remains under ordinance as it was. There were just a few of those, and they're pretty much in the $25 range. Of note, there are 2 added fees that you are voting on tonight, if you approve the amended recommendation from the committee. One is quarterly inspections, for which we have had no charge, which is a proposed $50 fee. And the other one is commercial plan review, which currently has no charge, and it's recommended a 5-cent per square foot fee. In committee, we did have some questions about the new fees and what impacts it might have on businesses and development. And Councilor Sullivan agreed to gather some more information to bring to the body tonight so that we could move forward with this order, but also bring further information to the council, so if the president would.
Counselor Sullivan, if you want
Yep. The one we really questioned the most was around the commercial plans, and the big question was if this included renovations. It does include renovations. For example, if someone was doing a 2,000 square foot renovation, the fee would be $100. Most renovations are rather small. On a large new construction, on a 20,000 square foot facility, this would be a $1,000 fee. I know $1,000 might sound like a lot, but we don't have a lot of really big developments going on. If we did have something of that magnitude, you'd be talking $1 million projects. Having a $1,000 fire plan review of this is not a showstopper. It's not business friendly. Not business friendly. Yeah. It's a drop in the bucket, but this is still it's something that the fire department has to go through. It's something that the other surrounding communities are doing, and it's something that's just part of any new development's plan, a regular and normal cost anywhere else they do business also, and we're just not doing it.
Counselor
And
Bacon?
I would note that these recommendations came to the committee through Counselor Sullivan, but also in conjunction with Deputy Chief Prezkopowski.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, Counselor Bresnan?
Do we know where the permit fees will be going?
They
Will it be going to the fire department?
go into the general fund.
Okay, just want to be sure.
But that is a good question, because there was a question that we didn't get into in this particular ordinance revision, but who is collecting the fees was a separate question. I don't know who does the billing for the fees.
Should be the
So
fire department.
it's
but-
not going to do us much good to increase the fees if we don't bill them.
Anything else? Anyone else? Motion was to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion is to pass the second reading. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion is that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the new fees. If you vote no, you're voting against it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
No.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi, McGee.
Yes.
11 yeas, 1 nay.
With your vote, you approve the new fees. 16B, Committee on Ordinance was referred in order at DPW install stop signs at Russell Terrace, South Street, and amended as followed, signed off by Bacon, Bartley, Burgos, and Roman.
Motion to pass the first reading?
Second?
Motion is passed the first reading. Our discussion, Counselor Bacon?
This is straightforward. The order was filed, and our DPW superintendent came in, recommended what would be appropriate for that intersection, and the committee adopted the recommendation.
That's it?
Under, motion was passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Second.
reading?
Motion was passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the stop signs.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
You're not used to it. You're not used to it.
Tallman.
No,
I
she
said
called Sullivan.
Sullivan.
She said Sullivan.
I heard Tallman.
I hear Tallman. I don't know.
No, she said Sullivan.
I heard Sullivan.
I heard Sullivan.
She had Sullivan.
Tallman,
Is it a blue dress or is it a...
Yes.
Everybody here heard Tallman.
Bacon,
Oh, my
It's in this-
Valentine?
Something in
Yes.
this water?
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the order. 16C, the Committee on Ordinance was referred an order that review of Chapter 42 Fire Prevention and Protection be undertaken. Recommend that the order has been complied with. Counselor Bacon?
I referred to this earlier. A general review took place, and now we'll be entertaining other orders that will get into the specific areas of the ordinance and make changes in the different sections that were identified through our other discussions in committee. So it's felt that the review was adequate, and now we need to get into the actual changes. Thank you.
Chairman spelled it out perfectly.
Okay. So the motion is that the order has been complied with. Is that a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Finance. 17A, the Committee on Finance has referred a collective bargaining agreement for UFCW 1459, which is DPW.
Mr. President, if we could suspend the rules to take up the financial request, appropriation request by transfer for this contract, they would be 17C,
So take up 17A and C as a package.
17D, and 17E.
D,
A,
A,
C,
C, D,
and E.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So A is the agreement, C is the allocation of $15,501 to page for various areas. D is for $5,300, which is from pay foreman, $5,300 to longevity payments in several areas. And E is for $3,659, which is from foreman to parking officer and then other positions. So motion is suspend rules, take them all up as package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'd just like to thank the members of the Finance Committee. We met to about 10:45 last night. We had the help of Councilor Bacon and Bartley to get through several contracts, several appropriations, and as I think most of us know, as we talk about the beginning of a year and reviewing a budget, it always coincides with the end of the year and tightening up the strings on the final go-around for the year. With that in mind, this first was a well-negotiated contract by the DPW Laborers Union with the city solicitor and the mayor as designated. The contract itself has an impact, which is the three immediate impact, which is the three financial appropriations which are in front of us, as just read by the chairman. Their contract had expired back in July 1 of 2016. There's a 0% increase for that year. It's very difficult to go back more than 1 year when it comes to appropriating money. But for July 1 of 2017, which would reflect along with January 1st of 2018, there's a 1% and a second 1% increase, and that's the monies that we're voting on this evening. The increase, besides the salary increases, and this is for the laborers, besides the salary increases, there's also a adjustment to the longevity. That's found on page 2 or the second page of the opening letter of the contract. And that goes from the 5 years less than 10, 550, 10 years less than 15, 750, 15 years less than 20, 825, the 20 year but not 25, 1,000, and anybody over 25, God bless them if they can work that long in a DPW because it is one hard job, 1,150. This is the contract that was agreed upon. We are agreeing to the appropriation. A reminder that under any contract, once we agree to an appropriation, the contract then becomes, for this year and any future years, it becomes part of the, it becomes a ratified contract, and it's our one shot at the appropriations. Contracts are subject to appropriations. We do not negotiate, we cannot negotiate, but we do have to understand the language of a contract as it pertains to the money that is being spent. And basically, in a nutshell, that's what we found out last night with the city solicitor and the president of the DPW laborers. Our recommendation is to pass the contract this evening and to pass these 3 appropriations that would support it.
Anyone else? So for the public, the wages were July 1st, 2016, for that year, 0. July 1st, 2017, 1%. January 1, 2018, 1%. July 1, 2018, 2%. And then the longevity that was pointed out by years. With that, the motion is to pass the first reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is to pass the second reading.
Second.
Tim?
The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for A, C, D, and E.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes,
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
yes,
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the orders. Back to 17B. Committee on Finance has referred a request for Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the Mass Works Grant.
Make a motion to receive, it is a grant to pass the first reading to allow the city to accept the money and spend it appropriately. Second.
Motion is to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you. We had Marcus Barrero in. He spoke to us on this grant for a good half hour. It's quite a fascinating project and a very expensive project. Although there is no match, it's a $1.6 million grant. Although there is no matching funds, it has been accepted in coordination with an ongoing project by the city, which I think was some of the best news I've heard in a long time, that they're finally going to do the project with Heritage Street out here by the park with the cobblestone streets, and to remove them and redo it. It also includes that into the down Dwight Street and into Front Street, a project that will tie up an area downtown, which I think is in need of a lot of work in terms of infrastructure. The $1.6 million will be placed, if accepted, will be placed into the revolving fund, which will be allow the DPW and, with the guidance of Mr. Marrero to be able to exercise this grant itself. Our recommendation is that we accept the grant, set up the necessary funds in an appropriate way to spend the money and account for it.
Anyone else? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with a couple of things that Joe mentioned. Joe was kind enough to give us a little information last night relative to the actual cobblestones, which it's actually helpful. I know Joe just knows this stuff, but the cobblestones themselves really have nothing but, they have sentimental value, but there's no monetary value to them. So I just want to make that point. But they will be in the possession of the Department of Public Works. So at some point, possibly if people are interested in them, then, but Joe mentioned it was a CETA project, and then one of my personal mentors was one of the CETA directors, if you will. So that was kind of really important to hear that. The second thing, more on topic, is there is some a kind of a funding gap, and I got to compliment the mayor and Marcos for putting this together. I've done a lot of grants in my career, and it's not easy to do this kind of work, but and I had some concerns about it too because of the dollar values. So the sources of the funding gap is CDBG funds and Chapter 90 funds. And Marcos explained that this is going to be over a 3-year period. So while there's significant monies being used from those accounts, and they're all speculative because we don't have a guarantee of CDBG or Chapter 90, it's spread over 3 years, so that was somewhat helpful. And then the third revenue source is a gas and electric, which at that point, Mr. President, we didn't have anything in writing, but Jimmy Lavelle was nice enough to send those of us who were at the meeting last night an email saying that his board is has okayed the $205,000 from the gas and electric. So that made me a lot more confident in this project. And then there's just the project itself, Mr. President. We're down here all the time and we know it, but it's kind of Heritage Street, Front Street, going up Dwight Street to Maple. And then when you factor in down the road, Mass DOT's already a 25% design for all the traffic lights all the way down Maple Street to Resnick Boulevard. So there's some positive things that are happening relative to Mass DOT in these couple of quarters. So, and these are a little bit down the road over the, fiscal years 20, 21, and 22. So it's a little bit down. I mean, Joe will still be here, but the public should be. I mean, the public should know this. That it's tough to keep it all in mind, but these are some positive things happening in this kind of corridor, and I just want to mention it for those of us. Thank you. Here. Thank you.
Councilor Talbot.
Yeah, I'll just be brief. It was a great meeting, and Marcos really described everything really well. Taking this area, this corridor of the city that's really downtown and vibrant, that's changing the downtown look with the merry-go-round and Heritage Park and the Children's Museum and the Volleyball Hall of Fame. I think a lot of us read about the students that are doing the volleyballs and putting them out through the city, which is really a big plus because other communities are doing their own thing, and for Holyoke to have that is great. And it's a progress that's really making this downtown, vibrant and bringing back safety for people to walk down here. They've talked about street lighting, sidewalks on both sides of these streets that they're working on, and to do this and to get this grant, I really commend Marcos and the people that really put in for this. And it's a project that's it could take a couple years, but we're going to start seeing some progress next spring. And it's a good project and not really costing the city any money, out of our funds. So. I really think it's a positive thing for the community, and the taxpayers should know that there are some good things happening down here in our community.
Anyone else? Motion was to pass the first reading on the grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant. If you vote no, you're voting against it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the acceptance of the grant. 17F, Committee on Finance referred an order from Patrolman Reserve, $9,190.16 to sick on duty or injured on duty and sick bonus.
The motion to receive and pass the first reading for the purpose of adoption.
Second.
It is received, passed first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Yes, I think the patrolman, the half which goes from patrolman and reserves into injured on duty is the ongoing transfers we're going to see every city council meeting. They were going to reflect anyone who might be on injured on duty, even if it's only for a day or two or over a weekend because of a possible injury, that it's going to reflect the transfers that are made during the course of the pay period. We put this one in committee though because there was a second line item which we didn't have the answers for at our last meeting, and that's the $2,608 would go into the line item known as sick bonus. The chief came in with Sergeant Hart and talked to us about what the sick bonus is and explained it to us in detail and refreshed our memories. Sick bonus is a contractual obligation of the current existing contract within the Holyoke Police Department, where individuals who do not use their sick time, after a 3-month period, they are allowed to tap into a bonus and to be given this bonus money. I think they also have an option if they want to take extra time off. It's something that's been in the contract for a while. The reason the contract is running short is not that there was an extra or an unusual amount of this type of bonus being needed this year, but this is one of the line items that we cut last June in the budget without the department head being in front of us. So what we're doing is replacing one of our cuts from the budget last June for something that is both contractual and needed to get through the end of the year. Our recommendation is that we adopt and approve the appropriation transfer tonight.
Anyone else? Motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman, Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos, Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the transfer. 17G. From Finance, $11,000. From Pensions to pay Fire Chief, $11,000.
Motion to receive the pass the first reading for the purpose of discussion.
Second.
I was looking down the line here, see what it was. So recommend that be adopted, so motion is to pass the first reading. Our discussion, Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to speak about my recommendation at the moment, but I'll just make the committee report from what we discussed and what we found out. This is a line item that would put money back into the pay for the fire chief's salary itself. This money was cut in the budget process last year. This money reflects a contract that was negotiated back in 2016. That contract was negotiated with the fire commissioners and the fire chief for both his benefits and for his salary itself. In fiscal 2017, the city council did cut the line item. At that time, I remember that we were unaware of the contract and did not have a copy of the contract in front of us. People voted for different reasons for cutting it back in 2017. During the course of the year of 2017, prior to the new ordinance, the mayor and the department head were able to transfer dollars back into this line item to bring it up to the full salary of what that contract had reflected, which at that time, I believe, was $120,000. It finished out the 2017 fiscal year at the 120. It was in the budget for this year, fiscal 2018, at which time the city council chose to make a reduction in that line item. Because as you know, the ordinance will not, our new ordinance will not allow department heads and the mayor to transfer monies that way anymore. All the transfers have to come back before us. This is back in front of us, requesting that we fully fund the contract itself. The discussion last night wasn't just about that. It was about the contract and the issues involving the contract and the way the city council has voted. And I'm not speaking against the fire chief having a salary of something, and this is not a out-of-whack salary in terms of fire chiefs within the region. It's not an out-of-whack salary for someone who's responsible for a rather significant budget, but more important, responsible for the employees, the firefighters that work under him, and their safety and their well-being. It's a tremendous job with a lot of responsibility on it. It's the idea that, and I was led to, I may have been leading the council wrong, that this is the first time ever in 2016 that a contract was allowed to negotiate the fire chief's salary. Chief Pond told us last night that Mayor Pluta actually did it by contract when he was hired. Prior to that, I know there's been no contract, and we've only had a contract for the chief of police since Mayor Dunn, back in 1991, came to the city council and negotiated with us to allow that salary to be by contract. Put that aside, the legal dilemma here is recognizing that in fiscal year 2017, the appropriation for the chief's salary by the 2016 contract was fully funded in the budget. Although I recognize that it slaps the city council in the face in terms of the vote that was made during the budget hearings. It was legit and legal, even though it may have been through a different side door. Now we're coming into 2018, and we have to. I think the legal question is the contract valid? And if so, then we are obligated as a city to honor it. I think I'll leave everyone to make up their own mind on that one. But that's the history of where we are, and that's the reason for the transfer request this evening.
Anyone else? Counselor Bresnahan.
The problem I have with this is that this can happen again and again with other department heads and anyone that gets anyone that can get a contract. I mean, how do you make a contract and appropriate money to pay a salary when that money's not there to be appropriated? And then we're the bad guys. Everybody likes John. You know, it's nothing personal, but the mayor's backing the city council in a corner by making a contract when the money's not appropriated for it. So he figured out a way to get him that $11,000 last year, and then whoever votes against, they don't support the fire department. Well, I mean, if the permit fees that we just raised, amongst all the fees that are now upon the city of Holyoke taxpayers and business owners, and I don't think that is business friendly. My colleague, said otherwise, but we can't compare our town to other communities. If you look at the top of the fire department, you might see it's pretty top heavy compared to other communities of larger sizes. I mean, we had a Deputy Chief Preskopowski speaking upon the permit fees. I mean that position didn't exist. And I know Jeff personally, great guy, I love him dearly. It's nothing, people take this personally. It's not, this is business. And these are not good business decisions that we're making. And we can continue to raise higher permit fees on all the homeowners and all the business owners in the city of Holyoke to pay everybody whatever they want, and let the mayor make all kinds of contracts and purchase and sales agreements and back us up into a corner where we have no option but to say yes because you don't want to be the bad guy. Who wants to cut someone's salary? Nobody does. Does the chief work hard? I'm sure he does. But again, I just think that this is a bad precedent because he can do it for, now what if he does it for the next police chief? And he just takes the money and puts it in there. And again, he got the $11,000 last year, though we cut it out of the budget. And as Councilman McGivern pointed out, it circumvents our entire authority on the budget when you do something like that. So let's keep that in mind. Let's forget about the person. Let's talk about the position, and let's talk about business, because that is what it's about. This is not personal.
Counselor Bartley, then Bacon.
Okay, so, thank you. Just a step back for a second. The reason this is even before us is because we passed an ordinance saying that intra-departmental budgets relative to personnel have to come back before city council, because this happened 2 years ago with the same department head, and he was given, we cut it, and then the mayor did a transfer, an in-house transfer, because he could. Well, now it's has to come back to city council. So that's all came before us. We felt last year that the chief, Dan said it just well, everybody respects John, everybody likes John, and knows he's doing a great job. But we felt last year that $109,000 was a reasonable salary, given that he'd been given a couple 3% raises the 2 fiscal years before that. So he had been getting regular raises, just with the rest of the guys in the fire department. But the mayor came up with his contract, which to date, none of us has seen it, or at least I haven't seen it. I don't think the finance chair has seen it either. So here we are at the back end of the fiscal year, and we found out last night that there happens to be $11,000 in a line item called non-contributory pensions. Well, what does that mean? That means, to be blunt, somebody died unexpectedly, and there was $11,000 left in the budget. It's as simple as that. So because there's money, to me, this is really a slap in the face to the taxpayers. Total slap in the face if you support this, in my opinion. This has nothing to do with John. We all respect John and admire John and admire the work of the women and men of the fire department. But here we have a little bit of money left over at the end of the fiscal year, and what do we do with it? We don't give it. We don't return it to the general fund. We don't give it back to the taxpayer. We give it to an employee. We already made a vote on that employee last June. We voted to pay him $109,000 a year. That was our vote. Again, we never saw a contract, so the mayor can have contracts, but we don't see them. I don't think it's unreasonable what we did. So what we did was legal. I don't think this is the right way to go about running a city government. I know it's not a lot of money, but the $11,000 in the grand scheme of things, but the $11,000 I feel should not be just shuffled over to an employee. I think it should go back to the general fund. And you're going to see very soon when you have the budget, I think you heard earlier, we already have it was announced last night, we have a $2.3 million deficit before we, with the budget we have, 2.3 million. So, thank you.
Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last night, I made the point very similar to the points that Counselor Bresnahan made tonight. And I do think we went through the process of creating an ordinance for the purpose of maintaining the integrity of the budget process, for which we get the thankless job of making the cuts to make it balance. And for this, at the end of the year, just to be coming in to undo it, when you'll see later in the agenda, I'm sure you've already seen it, that other raises are being asked to be funded out of stabilization fund, when we've had other frivolous expenses throughout the year, and there's nobody forgetting about the $10,000 Christmas tree. And so for us to be giving big raises to people when the people paying for the raises are lucky if they're getting a 2% raise is just ludicrous. I mean, this is real life. It's not play money. This is hard-earned money that the taxpayers pay. They don't want their money spent easily. And I'm not belittling anybody's job or the value of their work. Everybody's work is important in the city, but the taxpayers are paying for that work. We're here to serve the taxpayers. I think we need to remember that. I don't think undoing our votes from a year ago is serving the taxpayers. I think we need to stand fast, and if you think this is a tough vote, wait till we get to the budget with $2.3 million gap. I mean, this is an easy vote compared to the other votes. I don't know where the cuts are going to come from to balance this budget, but they're going to be tough. I'll say that. And I won't be supporting this transfer for that reason. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll just remind people that in order for a contract to go through, it's subject to appropriation. We did not approve an appropriation. That was taken from a side fund. That's not an approval of appropriation. So is the contract valid? No, we never approved it. That's the argument. Also, as Councilor Bartley pointed out correctly, it's not like they haven't been receiving percentage increases over time. They have been. So we gave an appropriate salary based on a city that doesn't have a ton of funds. So we appropriated it correctly in the budget, of which they're now coming up with a legal argument that really doesn't hold water. So for me, I will not appropriate this because we already said what was going to be in the budget. That was the salary. Also, I'll remind this council that we have lawsuits pending against us. Certain departments are saying that we cut the budget on their salaries and therefore we're liable to pay for them. Once again, it's subject to appropriation. If we now start cherry picking who can get that appropriation, that can be problematic to the lawsuits. So with that, if there's any other comments? Yep.
Question, Mr. President. I haven't been served. Do we have a lawsuit pending against us?
Yes, we do. We sat in executive session on it.
I haven't been served.
Well, it's not against us, against the city, but the claim was us. Semantics. All right, motion was to pass the first reading. Is there a second to it?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to
Motion to pass the second reading.
pass the second reading. It was seconded. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfer. If you vote no, you're voting against it.
McGivern,
No.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
No.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
No.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Bresnahan,
No.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
No.
6 yeas, 6 nays.
With your vote, you didn't approve the request. Item 17H, $79,000 from stabilization to pay for software licensing and hardware for a total of $79,000.
Make a motion to remove from that, to receive and to pass the first
Motion
reading
is
for
receive,
discussion.
Pass the first reading, under discussion, Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. You actually are going to find a second order, I believe, attached or within the package or somewhere in the package up there. The second order I'm referring to was the original order for this purpose, which we received 2 meetings ago, I believe, and we discussed it once in the Finance Committee meeting, and then we brought it back to the full City Council to return it. And it's identical, except it's not from stabilization, but it's from free cash. And I believe it was actually at your suggestion that we look to see if we could do this from stabilization for some good reasons, which I'd like to talk about. This leads into what I think is going to be for the rest of this evening. For our next Finance Committee meeting is next Monday on the 11th, and we should be able, or our goal is to tidy up this year by the 19th. We've told the auditor, the mayor, and the department heads have been told that, everything should have been in this evening so we can clear the table and get ready for the budget after the 19th. So here's the dilemma. The reason it's going into software license and systems hardware, we learned from Rory Casey, and that was 2 Finance Committee meetings ago, was that last year the telephone system, which I think we all remember here in City Hall in the annex, went down. It completely collapsed. That system was, under emergency circumstances, replaced. The money that was used to replace came through the IT department budget. If you look at the IT department budget, it's not a complete line item budget. It's a budget that's broken down into a few line items. It's our agreement with the gas and electric to provide IT services. The type of telephone system that came in was determined, comes under this type of, it did go out for purchase under an RFP, but it comes under this type of a budget, and this type of a spending was determined appropriate, and I think that's correct. But because it wasn't anticipated, the budget itself is falling short by $44,000 for software license and $35,000 for systems hardware. So the original free cash transfer was not approved by the City Council, and the mayor came back at our last meeting with the stabilization fund transfer, and we discussed, we have both of them before us tonight, but we discussed them. So why stabilization over, first of all, I think we should pay for the system because it was necessary and it is a good system. But why stabilization over free cash? Well, this is the type of item that is considered, whether you call it an emergency or one-time type of an expenditure, something that we talk about when we need it to bridge the gap. Stabilization can, and in my opinion, should be used. Stabilization, by using it this evening, will free up cash as we are struggling. Councilor Bacon noted, although it's not on the agenda this evening, we have a firefighter's contract that's in front of the Finance Committee, but the request to pay for this year's portion of the firefighter's contract is $142,000 from stabilization. And I do apologize, it's being broken down, so it actually is coming in a different format later this evening, but will be going to committee as far as I can see. The whole idea is by freeing up the $79,000 and watching where we are with free cash, we can use the free cash to get through the balance of the year. A quick reminder, and I'll tell you where we are at could be with free cash, depending on what's in front of us. As you know, we started with a little over $1.5 million when it was finally certified. We immediately had to use $1.33 million plus to balance the budget. We had to pay because we didn't use stabilization or the retirement monies to pay for the lack of monies during that period. We had to borrow money, so we had to pay for that. We've only approved one free cash transfer since then, and that was a $10,000 transfer 2 meetings ago. We have pending before us, not counting what's coming in this evening, a $75,000 one, which is laid on the table. That's for the fees, outside legal counsel that we've been briefed on, those different fees that are owed. We have the $79,000, which is in front of us right now. We have a couple others that are coming in, which would include the Mata Della Rosa and the new appropriation for the firefighters contract, which would, instead of stabilization, be free cash. The dilemma is the amount of free cash left is less than all these items totaled. So we're going to have to pick and choose which ones we want to use free cash for. Our suggestion is that we use for this $79,000 the stabilization funds. It's appropriate. I don't see any cause of a problem with our bond rating or with Wall Street. It makes sense in terms of helping us get through this very tight and very difficult period. And at the same time, it could open up the door for us to do some good things for some of our employees. So the recommendation at this point is that we used this item, stabilization, and not the free cash.
Anyone else? Counselor Bacon?
Can we have the free cash total?
Joe, what's free cash after that 10,000 was taken out? Was it 210?
Yes, and I'm not, it's the question of, all right, it's not, it's the depending, hang on a minute, sorry. I did it a different way, and Belleway's not sitting behind me, right?
Nope. I do believe if you don't add in the 75,000 legal, we did approve the 10,000, you're correct. That gave us roughly about, rough guesstimate, 210,000 of free cash. That was my
It's
last.
216 after the 10,000.
Okay, so 260.
But pending, as I said, is above, everything that's now before us with what's coming in this evening will go above that mark.
Right, if you take out the 75,000 for that, for legal, and so on and so forth, wherever else they're coming from.
Correct.
Yep. Anyone else? So the motion was to just one question, Councilor McGivern. Before us is a request from stabilization. Attached to it is the free cash that you were talking about, that was the first order. That one we're not doing anymore. Did the committee vote on that to deny it, or? 'Cause I don't have anything.
Yes, if I could refer to the administrative assistant, or if you can look at my notes on it should say, one is to, the recommendation is to approve stabilization, and then there's one where it's to deny free cash. I mean, the point that they're together is, it goes hand in hand. We have to, I hope we adopt one, and the other one we would dispose of.
Because that's my question. 17,
There's only one item on the agenda, because it's the same thing. It's just a question of, it's a choice between source.
one thing, Joe, is that, as was explained, we ran this problem before, Brian Smith corrected it, it's not your fault. It's, if we put in a bunch of orders for free cash, then that locks it up to the number. So we're so close to that number, if we have a bunch of free cash requests and we go over that, we can't have any more requests for free cash until you dispose of some. So it'd be behoove us tonight to act on the 79,000 from free cash. So we have to suspend the rules, pull from committee, because it's not listed on the agenda. So you know what I'm saying, just for procedure?
Procedure, I'll yield to whichever the president and the body wants. I see they're both coming in under one line item, because they are, under an open meeting law, they're essentially the same discussion It's a difference of, do we use stabilization or do we use free cash? But, Mr. President, I'll make that motion to suspend the rules to bring the free cash one officially in front of us.
All right, so motion is suspend the rules, take from finance a request for 79,000 from free cash for the same issue we're talking about.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So now before us, we have two orders, same thing. One is from stabilization for 79,000 for the phone system that we just talked about. The other was from free cash, 79,000 for the same issue. The committee is recommending that the free cash be denied and that stabilization be approved. Am I correct?
That's correct, Mr. President.
So with that, do you want to take up the free cash one first? Vote on that and then go from there, or how would you like to proceed?
I would suggest the stabilization one first.
I agree.
So,
I mean,
okay,
yeah.
all right, so motion is to pass the first reading on 79,000 from stabilization for software licensing and software hardware. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion
Also
is,
to pass the second reading?
there a second? Seconded?
Second.
Motion is to pass the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the stabilization, 79,000 from stabilization to pay for the phone system that went astray.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
No.
Sullivan,
No.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
No.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Bresnahan,
No.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
7 yeas, 5 nays.
What's your vote? You didn't approve it.
Make a motion to reconsider action to lay on the table.
Motion
Second.
is to reconsider, lay on the table, no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, it's tabled. So, stabilization is tabled. Next is 79,000 from free cash. The motion was that it be denied. Motion is to pass the first reading to deny the 79,000 from free cash. That was the recommendation from the committee. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr.
Correct.
President.
So, that's the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion to pass the second reading.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll. If you're voting yes, you're voting to deny the free cash transfer. I know it's a little confusing. It's the yes for deny. So just want to be clear.
McGivern,
No, if you want to.
Any discussion?
Sorry, Counselor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting behind me are some firefighters that worked very hard on their contract. And if we don't free up the free cash situation that will allow us some monies if we so choose to honor the contract, then we're not going to be able to honor that contract. And there's a good chance that that contract won't be looked upon until sometime next October or so, if there is free cash next year, which I anticipate there'll be some. I understand the strong feelings about stabilization, but I really believe that this is one of those times where it makes more sense to use stabilization. And if we had used it, when we had to bridge the gap and we didn't have to borrow money, we'd have enough money in free cash to do what we're trying to do. But unfortunately, we didn't. And right now, it's put us in between a rock and a hard place. And I would ask that this free cash request be denied outright, regardless of how you feel about stabilization.
Anyone else? All right, so to pass the second reading, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to deny the request from free cash for $79,000 to pay for the phone system.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
No.
Sullivan,
No.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
No.
Valentine,
No.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
LeBrun Martinez,
No.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
6 yeas, 6 nays.
Your request to deny the free cash has been denied as well. So is there a motion for this one?
Motion to table.
Motion is to reconsider and table. It was seconded.
Mr. President,
Counselor McGivern?
No,
It's not
not
debatable.
debatable,
you can debate reconsideration.
Yeah, trying to
You can?
reconsideration, yep.
Yeah, you can. Under I can't even speak, never mind debating. I would ask that we don't reconsider this one because of what you said 2 minutes ago. We need to balance the free cash in order to do anything with the free cash, not just about the firefighters' contract, but about several things that are important that we need the free cash for to get through the fiscal year. So I think it's just at this time it's prudent that we just get rid of the $79,000 from free cash just to show that we're going in the direction of being able to balance the free cash expenditures.
Anyone else? So the motion was to reconsider our actions and table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Chair is in doubt for the first time this year. We'll raise hands. If you're voting yes, you're voting to table. Raise your hand. Four. So it's not tabled.
And therefore fails for lack of a,
Correct. Just correct my notes.
Brenna,
17.
good luck summarizing that debate.
17 aye.
Mr. President, I need to recuse myself from this discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
17 aye. Counselor Lisi will abstain. Committee on who was referred, finance, that's $6,237 from local inspector to building commissioner.
Make a motion to receive and to pass the first reading for discussion.
Motion is to receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Under discussion, Counselor McGivern.
Mr. President, we had a good discussion on this line item, just a real quick summary of where it's coming from. This would be the coming from local inspector, which the position was not filled for the entire year, and being transferred into the building commissioner's salary line item. The purpose of the transfer is a deficit in that line item. If similar to a prior discussion this evening, but a little different, this particular line item, again, was cut in this budget in June of last year during our budget hearings. This is a contract that, or in the case of this one, is a MOU that was negotiated with the professional department heads association. Although not a union, they have been recognized by the mayors over the years as a collective bargaining unit, and rightfully and dutifully so, the mayors in the law department have negotiated with them for contracts. With us last night was Jeff Burkott, who is the current president of that association, who explained, and it's a one-page agreement, but explained that this was not only negotiated in good faith going back to May of 2016, but it also had the outright support of the body itself, which I believe currently is about 24 different individuals. I did say department heads. They're not all department heads, but they're upper management, and if not department heads, assistants or middle management. These type of bargaining has been going on for many years because of this group was always finding the short straw when it came times to different types of salary increases, even simple COLAs. They didn't seem to get on a regular basis or on any basis in some cases. The difference or the dilemma here is that this contract was put into effect on May 2nd of 2016. In the immediate fiscal budget in 2017, the dollars were placed into, at that time, to take care of the contract itself. In other words, they were appropriated. What happened is in fiscal 18 this year, a motion was made to cut this line item which goes against the MOU itself, an agreement with the professional association. And the request is to make that whole. Part of the salary here that we're looking at is in reflection to an increase in the department, this is the building department, of employees. At the time it was bargained, it was talked about the demolition positions. As we know, one ended up being filled, one I don't believe this body ever passed, and one I think temporarily came from block grant monies. But there are other employees that, positions that have, since the beginning of the contract itself, have come under the responsibility of the department head itself. I'm trying to give both sides of the story, but at the same time, the recommendation of the committee is that we adopt the transfer, that we honor the MOU, and that we recognize Mr. Cody's hard work in the position that he is in. The salary itself is reflective and actually on the low end of building commissioners within the region, but it is something that goes hand in hand with the type of responsibility. So the recommendation is to adopt this evening.
Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, I really appreciate, first of all, I just want to compliment Joe, because he really ran a good meeting. It was a tough meeting last night, so I ran a good meeting. It's not easy. So, and I appreciate his leadership. I'm gonna oppose this for the same reason I opposed the earlier order, number 17G. And again, it's not a personal thing. I've seen Damien's work, and really come to admire and respect all the work that he does. He now has a larger staff that he has to administer, I guess. But here we have the same thing. Now I realize this came up earlier in the year, but it's the same principle, Mr. President. And you just heard what we went through. You're torturing ourselves over as a percentage of the budget's just a fraction, but we're so close to the bone, Mr. President. I mean, I know people get mad at me, oh, geez, you point out the mayor. Well, I mean, he makes the budget, Mr. President. And how many times does the mayor come in here and explain some of these things? How about zero? Other than budget time. That's the last time I remember, or maybe he was in one other time, but, oh, that's right. He came, that's right. when we had the, when he was blaming us for not pass, or certain councilors were getting upset because we didn't set the tax rate. Well, because the budget wasn't balanced, but with a stabilization. But fortunately, I think I suggested it, but we got behind it and we found some money out of stabilization, Mr. President, if you recall, to pay for the snow plowing. And that helped us get across the finish line so we could set the tax rate. But when we see these transfers, I mean, it's just the mayor just, again, it hasn't come before us because of what happened in years past. There were intrapersonnel transfers. We passed an ordinance, and now it has to come before us. So here we are at the end of the fiscal year, because a local inspector left early. There's that much money left over. It just so happens that that's the amount that we cut, and Councilor McGivern rightly pointed it out last night. It was a 1-vote margin to cut the amount. Nevertheless, it was cut, and we made that vote last June. And here we are, a year later, and let's give the gentleman who probably deserves it, maybe deserves it. We'll look at the budget this year, and we'll see where it goes. But at this last minute, Mr. President, the 11th hour, I have to vote no. Thank you.
Anyone else? Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just note that the memorandum of understanding was presented last night. This matter's been brought up on three separate occasions, with the same discussion taking place on each occasion. And again, do we have integrity in our budget process, or are we going to expose ourselves again to giving certain people certain treatment and other people not? And I think we have a liability exposure here if we do this, similar to the point you made on the other one. And so I will not be supporting this transfer tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Valentine.
Thank you. I guess with all due respect to the opinions of my colleagues, I see this a bit different than the situation with the fire chief, which I voted in favor of, but that didn't pass. I see this as, to me, the red flag of union comes up, the red flag of MOU comes up, the red flag of the timeline comes up, meaning it seems as if the sequence of events, I think, is quite different. So to compare it to the situation with the fire chief increase, my understanding is that would not be compatible. So based on all those red flags, I will be voting to support this, and I ask my colleagues to join me in that. But we'll see, because the whole night's been pretty much 6-6, and we don't know if we're going to pass anything tonight, really. But I think it's interesting. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. Thank you.
Councilor President and Councilor Bacon.
I don't know that collective bargaining is considered a union, and it's a professional association. I will also tell you that the building commissioner is directly appointed by the mayor, so it's kind of difficult to be, you don't find many union people directly appointed by an executive. Usually they're not, because they're not beholden to anyone, or so I think it's not an actual union. I was part of it. It's a professional association is what it's actually referred to. And again, the fire chief isn't directly appointed by the mayor, but he's appointed directly by the mayor, who appoints the board of commissioners. And in this case, we have a mayor directly appointed by the mayor. And to the president's point, we do have folks that are seeking damages because we cut their salary when the mayor and his office made promises to them for their salary wages, and we didn't have the money and we cut it out. So I'm not in favor of this. I'm not in favor of really anyone getting a lump sum of money right at the end of the day when we are facing the financial problems that we're facing. I wouldn't, if it was an entire body of people getting something as opposed to a handful getting something, I would probably be more supportive of that, but I'm not in support of this.
Councilor McGivern.
Just a clarification, and I appreciate all the comments, and I understand all the comments, and it is difficult. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I took no pleasure in the fire chief's vote this evening or the first time we did it, but there is a point, and Mr. President, you put it as well as anyone could put it, where we do have to take a stand as to the way proper government is. Council President's correct. This is not a union. It's not a union position, but it is a collective bargaining unit, like it or not. And it's been a collective bargaining unit for some time now, where we've approved a number of their negotiated MOUs, they call them, and we've, over the years, I don't think we ever denied one. In this case, unlike the previous contract that we were talking about, this contract, an appropriation was made, and it was made with a vote through the budget process in 2016, 2017. And that's, to me, is the difference of honoring an agreement. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to pretend to be a lawyer, Mr. President, but I think that's the difference for what we're looking at this evening. Is this is something that was agreed upon at one time.
Councilor Bacon and Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would further note and refer to the memorandum of agreement that was entered into. We had long and grand debate on that budget year where we added positions to that department, with the statements and the anticipation that there would be a demo team hired that would save the city tens of thousands of dollars. There were 3 positions created that year. We hadn't created 3 positions in a budget, I don't know, since I'd been on the council. Those positions were never filled. That performance criteria was never completed. That's specifically stated in the MOU. So you can say, well, yes, there's other people in the department now. He hired another inspector. He has people working on the tax work-off. But the specific performance criteria that the big debate was around was creating an additional team that was going to require additional oversight and was going to reap savings of tens of thousands of dollars for the city. It never happened. You don't give performance raises when the performance criteria isn't met. That's a separate matter from that we already cut the budget relative to the position. But if you want to make the argument, we have to keep our word because we made a deal, well, then the deal has to happen. The deal didn't happen. Thank you.
Councilor Mountain.
Unless there's any other discussion, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to table.
Second.
Councilor Sullivan. Then we'll get to you. 'cause he-
As far as the performance and the tens of thousands of dollars of saving, it's been in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the savings that has gone on this year. Not only hundreds of thousands in saving, but numerous unsafe buildings demolished, boarded up, other issues dealt with them because of this. It was not through the fault of the building inspector. The team that was supposed to go in was not funded. Only one person was funded, the other two were cut. So that's not his issue, but despite that, all the additional duties that he had to do, even with the one person and the additional work that goes along with taking on this number of demolitions. If you take just the one that went on at Springdale Park, what that crew did was called live loading of hazardous materials and trucking it out. If that had gone out to bid, that would have been a $250,000 job in itself that was taken care of by that department. So I'll let it go just at that. When we talk about tens of thousands, we saved a lot and we got way more done than we ever could because of this.
There's a motion by Councilor Arlington for tabling.
I second.
I second it.
The reason I do that, Joe, is you spoke twice, and we have to suspend the rules.
Mr. President, committee
Councilor
report is
McGivern.
not, committee report, giving of the committee report should not be speaking once if you don't make recommendations strong in it. You just tell what the committee did, then you get to make your recommendation, but I'll yield to the motion to table.
If you have a comment, Joe, I don't mind. What?
I didn't, clearly, I think Councilor Bacon just made note of there were some increases. I didn't clearly state that in my report. When Mr. Cody took over the office, there were 4 employees. There are now 9. When Mike Sullivan made the same speech last night that he just gave to the council this evening, I was convinced, and I haven't been happy with Damien in the past couple of months. I think most people know on other issues, but I recognize him as one of our hardest working, not just in the office, but more important, outside of the office employees. And this is a position that we lost one of the hardest working employee I ever saw due to salary to Springfield. And I think if anybody knows I'm talking about Mr. Healy, you have an understanding of what I'm saying. And this, again, though, is a contract. Agree or disagree, we could do a performance evaluation right now, and I think we'd all agree that Mr. Cody is deserving of a salary increase and works for it, not just because we like him. Lately, I've been mad at him.
Dan?
Just brief, I mean, my only issue is that we could substitute Damien's Cody's name in for many people that are in that organization, but we're not doing that. We're taking one person's name out. There are many department heads that are underpaid, that deserve, that work hard, that have lived and breathed the city of Holyoke all their lives, but we're not doing it for all of them. And if you want to give everybody a piece of the pie in that entire organization, I will support that. But cherry picking a few people here and a few people there, quite frankly, perhaps for political reasons, I think is inappropriate. And that's not reflective of you, Counselor. I'm saying who sent this our way, the executive office. I don't think it's appropriate. I think there's some issues going on with the purchasing department. I mean, there's many department heads that have been underpaid, and many department heads have left for that very reason. But let's be fair and equitable with everybody. Let's not cherry pick this guy and that guy and this guy or this girl and give them all $5,000. Give everybody $2,000. Give them something.
I'd like to respond to that, Mr. President.
Yes.
On the motion.
It's a motion to table.
Motion is to table. Is there a second?
Let him respond.
Seconded.
Let him respond.
Thank you, Councilor Tallman. I was here to quarter 11 last night. I'm only asking to respond to one thing.
Yeah.
And I respect what Danny said, because I said this earlier. Just because of what Danny Bresnahan just said, I asked the president of the association what the entire body felt. And he said across the board, their support in this.
Yes.
Councilor Roman.
Yes, my comment, Mr. President, is the fact that this body has rules for a reason. And I'm tired that was number 4 tonight, with all due respect to my colleague. So I'd really like us to enforce the rules. There was a motion to table. We can go back and forth all day. I'm being a realist. There's at least 4 of us who are going to vote no on this. We don't have the votes tonight. So let's move on. Let's table it. It's not going anywhere this evening. This is redundant. And yes, we're cherry picking and we're here, we're there, but we have to follow the rules, Mr. President, with all due respect. And let's move it. We're not going to vote on it. There's at least 4 of us who are going to vote no. Do the math.
Well-
This isn't going to pass tonight.
Well, the motion is to table. Was it seconded?
Yes.
All right, this motion is to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Raise your hands if you want to table it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion fails. Motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second.
The people haven't even voted.
They did vote.
No, they, when he said those against,
said
nobody
no.
got to say no, because you just interjected to pass the second reading.
I heard them all say no. I had a few people say no. I said no.
Motion was to pass the first reading. I heard the ayes. Motion is to pass the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for it. If you vote no, you're voting against it.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
No.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon,
No.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Bresnahan,
No.
LeBrun Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi, oh, she's abstaining, McGee.
No.
6 yeas, 5 nays.
So is that a majority of those present or not?
No.
Majority of the body.
With your vote, you didn't approve the
Mr.
order.
President,
Counselor Bartley.
I just want to suspend the rules, and because we've just got people in the gallery here and I noticed that their issues won't come up for another 70 orders.
All right, so let's go out of order. Suspend the rules.
I'm just wondering if.
Second.
I did run it by Chairman McGivern too. I wouldn't just do that without.
No. What orders,
What
Counsel?
number?
47 and 51, because they really go hand in glove.
47, 51.
47 and 51. And so I just want a motion to suspend to take those out
Motion
of
is
order.
to suspend the rules, take up 47 and 51 as a package.
So suspend, take them up as a package.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 47 from Counselor Bartley, order that
Create it
the
if you
City
want.
Council, in accordance with Mass General Law, Code of Ordinance, vote to approve order of taking of deed in lieu of taking in accordance to the purchase and sale agreement between the city and the Roman Catholic Bishop of Springfield. And it gives the deed and map information.
Yep. And 51. Mr. President?
51 is from Counselor Bartley as well, or at the City Council in accordance with Mass General Law, vote to approve the MOU between the City of Hoyoke and the Hoyoke Housing Authority, and then the same with regards to the book, map, and location.
My motion is to refer these to DGR.
Motion is to
Second.
receive and refer to
Under
DGNR.
discussion, Mr.
Under
President.
discussion, Counselor Bartley.
We will take these up either on the 18th or the 25th, just depending upon, I've got to work out the calendar with Ryan. That's why one of the reasons why we need a second meeting. I'll let the body know that there are, I have received some draft documents, or should I, unsigned documents, but look like they're final purchase and sale contract that was sent to me in confidence. So I do have certain documents in my possession, but I don't have signed documents, and I'm not even sure if they're final. And let me just say this for the public record, this is so they're filed under my name because I'm the chairman, so that happens a lot. I just want the public to know that. So I haven't decided how I'm voting on this, but this is real estate is always complicated, but this is particularly so complicated, Mr. President. So I can say this under 60 seconds. This is Monte della Rosa within the fenced area, not the parking lot. This is also 2 lots on which the former Perpetual Help Catholic Church sat before it was lit on fire by arsonists. And on those lots, is, and I advise, this is how fluid this is, or bizarre this is going on with this administration, you take your pick. I advised Dr. Zreik of this when I saw him at the Hispanic Family Breakfast Saturday morning. He had no idea. So on these 2 lots that were the former Perpetual Help, Mr. President, are the potential locations for the new middle school. Our receiver was informed by the Ward 3 counselor of that on Saturday. So just take that for your own information as that is. So we will, and finally, Mr. President, because your legal acumen, you understand these words, but sometimes people don't. In the unsigned purchase and sale contract that I read, the key phrase is in there, time is of the essence. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's no joke. In a contract, that means do it by the due date or this is done. And the due date is June 30th. So this is the position that we've been put in by the administration. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just simply stating facts, Mr. President. I'm simply stating facts. We have one contract, Council President, one contract for the purchase and sale, but this MOU is hand in glove with it. So there's a purchase and sale contract for the fenced-in area. There's an MOU for the 2 lots over
By Lawrence. Chestnut.
Cheapers. How do I forget? The Chestnut Street, yeah. So we watched it burn down, Todd, didn't we? So there you go. So we will, on the 18th or the 25th, probably the 18th, we'll take it up because I just think this is going to lead to more discussion. Sorry about that.
No?
Thank you.
Anyone else? So motion is to receive and refer to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 17K,
Yeah.
I do believe we're at now. Yep. Jay?
Jay's done.
Sorry.
H.I.J.
Hey, Mr. President, if I could, suspend the rules to take 17J and 17L together.
Take J and L, so motion is suspend the rules, take up 17J and L. All those in favor? All opposed?
Just a point of reference, 2 weeks ago, we received, it might have been 2 meetings ago, we received a request to adopt an ordinance reflecting all revolving funds. And Councilor Bacon noticed that the recycling revolving fund, which we passed earlier this year, was not within that request itself, or not within the list itself of revolving funds.
All right, so let me just.
Oh, I'm
read them
sorry,
out,
I'm sorry.
Counselor. So 17J is the Committee on Finance was referred to, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, 53E and a half, that the recycling program revolving fund, motion that's complied with, and 17L is that the City of Holyoke establish a revolving fund dedicated for the recycling program. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, sorry. So both these items were still in the jacket. One we knew was there just for further discussion, which was Councilor Bartley and Councilor Bacon's original order, and that's on the recycling program itself. And the other was the actual revolving fund. I believe it was just a duplicate, but to make sure we put it on the agenda for last night, Mr. McManus came in. We had a good discussion on recycling. All the good things about recycling were discussed, which is we get a little money when we bring stuff to recycling to the MRF, and we save more money because the tonnage doesn't get reflected for the tipping fee for the dump or the transfer station, wherever the trash might be going. And more important, the environment is better off when we do recycle. And of course, this isn't a volunteer program, it's a mandatory program by ordinance. So we did clear up the fact that and Bellamy Smith was there last night, and the ordinance committee is going to take care of the new ordinance proposal, which we found out reflects a new state law pertaining to revolving funds. So we're just reporting that these orders have been complied with, and we thank Mr. McManus for coming in and Bellamy for sorting out our questions.
Yep.
Just as a point of information.
Your mic.
Through the president.
Yep.
A point of information through the president to the chair. The revolving fund that we approved tonight, I think will need to come in to us with language from the auditor for that ordinance also, for the grant. If it's going to be a new revolving fund?
No, we already adopted it in a prior meeting.
So it's already there?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just, for some reason, it wasn't on the list.
Okay.
And we're going to amend that list so that you,
With the new grant that we accepted tonight, I think we created a new revolving fund. That's all I was,
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah. So I just think we'll need to add that in ordinance also,
Okay.
the new one. Thanks.
To be clear, this came up when Counselor Bartley brought forth a recommendation, and others did it, but it was under his name at the time, to establish a recycling program. And at that time, it would not exceed 25,000 each fiscal year. I think it was 20,000, one of the two, of which the consensus was to lower that, and the new one is now 15,000.
Right.
Because we don't want to put too much in, we buy a bunch of
Right.
blue barrels, and now we have excess money. So we reduced it, that came back, but at the same time, we had two orders coming out in the full body, which was, so we had to deny one, kind of like some of the stuff we were doing tonight on the
Right.
stabilization stuff. So with that, this, I think, is just keeping it up. So Counselor Bartley.
I appreciate that, because I think Councilor Bresnan, in fact, I know he had recycling orders down the road. Mr. President, I just want to point out how happy I am about this, and I've said it last night, there's more than one time where I blasted Mr. Fuqua, but in this particular instance, he deserves a lot of recognition, because we still have a dual stream in this city, whereas other municipalities have a single stream, and because of various market conditions, but I don't pretend to understand even any of them. But the recycling worldwide is going down. So on the front page of the Boston Globe today, you'll see how lots of communities. I mean, we still get a check, Mr. President. We get a check every 6 months. I think it's $11,000 or $12,000 from the MRF. And I think through Councilor Sullivan's suggestion last night, Mr. McManus is going to look for other avenues where he can sell Holyoke recyclables, and he's already investigating that. But Councilor Sullivan mentioned some other ones, so that's point two. Point three, the last one is if you see the article, you see that not only are communities not getting paid, they're paying to have the recycling hauled away. I mean, $60 a ton for the recycling. But the city of or town of Plymouth, I think it's a town, they stopped it. I mean, Holyoke should get some, I deservedly so, a lot of recognition for that. And now we have, because every ward councilor and every councilor gets these requests for the blue bins, for the ones with the wheels. So I think that's something which the city should promote as much as we can. And one last point, Mr. President, Mike still said there's 25 to 30% in the solid waste stream that are recyclables. So as well as we're doing, Holyoke can still do better, and we can still make more money for the city and clearly to help the environment.
Anyone else? Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. I just want to briefly state and follow what Councilor Bartley stated, that whatever we take out of the system, we're paying less in the long run for the tonnage that we're paying, and we're getting a slight check. And as Councilor McGivern stated, it is a law. I mean, people have got to realize that that's something that we should be doing, and not everybody's doing it. So I think just to let everybody know that's watching at home to recycle, it's not hard to do. If you need a bin, they got bins down there, the small ones for $5, right?
$7, Pete.
Until they go up to $7.
$7, Pete.
Yeah, I'm going down next week, get one for $5, because I need another one, so
They're gonna
I think
go up to $7
everybody get home, everybody that's listening, get home and start recycling. It's important, it's saving our city much dollars, much tax, we're really saving money and getting some money back, so really try to do that.
Counselor Bacon.
And I would just note that Mike McManus noted they have an adequate supply of the small bins, which for a long time were lacking. So there's plenty of availability. Thank you.
So the motion is 17J and L, order that has been complied with. Is that the motion?
That's correct,
Yes,
Mr. President.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 17K.
President, if we don't mind suspending the rules and taking up out of order item number 49, I think that, they all just left. I think all those folks were actually here for 49.
Right. $47.
We did 47 and 51.
51.
It wasn't 49?
I looked at it.
No, that's Hamilton Street, I think.
You're right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 47, 51,
We're all set then.
17K, the Committee on Finance was referred for communication from DPW,
no worries.
shut-off program update. Motion is that it's been complied with.
Make a motion to receive the committee report and adopt the recommendation.
Motion is to
Second.
receive, adopt, that's been complied with. Under discussion, Counselor McGivern.
Mr. McManus stuck with us on this item also. He gave us an update on the sewer shut-off program. Appears to be going very successfully forward. The second notices and the first notices of there's three billing cycles within the city, which is determined by the water departments, and most of what we've heard so far is about the first cycle, but the second cycle list is going out as we speak. The success of the first cycle has been pretty much phenomenal. It's been reported prior to this, but this was a request that we had in it. I know the ordinance committee is taking up the sewer rate, which I think goes hand in hand with the information. But what we learned last night was, and Councilor Bartley did a dance on this one, which I was kind of hoping he would do it again this evening for everybody here.
Happy
but
to if you want.
It
He
was
will.
was quite was a very nice performance, David. I enjoyed it a lot because I think it is important to tell especially our department heads when the jobs are being done so well that we do appreciate it. Not us, but the people that we represent, and that's the key. But the numbers speak for themselves, and I can see anything but more success as we go forward.
Counselor Bartley.
So the numbers, Mr. President, and we're not going to go into the gory details of what we did last night, but 131 out of 132 are now either paying in full or have a payment plan, 99.2%. And the one is vacant. So I would say the adjectives can't be, they just have to be tremendous. Like nothing passes unanimously here, or rarely. That one didn't, but we got that one through after a bit of time, Mr. President. I think a lot of us are here, Mr. Jordan, who helped lead the charge. I think that deserves a lot of credit for that. But now we have, the first letter we had out, Mr. President, it shows some good progress. But Mike followed up on it last night, 131 out of 132, and that's round one. So round two is coming, or actually it's out there. Round two already started, so that's pretty good. When you shut off the water, you can't live. So they're paying their sewer, and I think that's real kudos and compliments to Mike McManus, and of course the Waterworks and Mr. Conti and the staff at the Waterworks as well. Thank you.
Anyone else? With that, if there's no further discussion, motion was to receive, adopt, that it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public safety. 18A, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order the representative of the building department come before the city council to discuss any changes in the permit fees for residential and commercial property.
Motion to accept the committee's report.
Motion is that it's been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor President.
Briefly, Damien sent me a correspondence that just said that there has not been an increase in any permit fees. He did foresee a change in the future to the permitting process, and it would be for paper submittals for plans and documents once they move to 100% online permitting. But he says that's months to a year away. He also spoke briefly about 1 to 2 families basically structured as residential as far as getting permits, and then 3 family and up turns into a commercial property. So this was sent to me by a property owner, so I felt that it was complied with. It was my order. Thank you.
Anyone else? So motion is to receive, adopt, that is going to comply with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 18B, the Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that DPW meet representatives from HCC and residents regarding Sunset Ashley Clayton Road neighborhood. Recommend that it be complied with.
Motion to accept the committee's report.
Motion is that it's been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Bresnahan.
I'm going to actually defer to Councilor Vacant because the next two are really, she's been fighting for that area up there.
All right, Counselor
Thank you, Mr.
Bacon.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in the context of this order was the petition that we received to reconfigure the road there. So the next step that will properly occur is that Superintendent McManus will send a report to the City Council, at which time I believe the Public Safety Committee would continue to be the proper committee to hold the public hearing. So this portion of the order was essentially complied with because the other components of it can be meshed into the public hearing when it happens.
Okay, so
Thanks.
motion that's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 18C, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that recent FCC rulings, the City Council invite the representatives from H&E to discuss the public access and broadband and fiber. Or that's
Send to public.
referred to public service.
Motion to accept the committee's recommendation.
Second.
Motion is to receive and send to public service under discussion. Counselor
Yeah, this
President.
was just accidentally slipped into my jacket. It was meant to go to public service, not public safety.
All right, so the motion is to receive and refer to Public Service Committee for them to take it up.
Correct.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Housekeeping. 18D, Public Safety was referred in order that guardrails be installed on Route 202 near Ashley Reservoir. Motion has been complied with. Under discussion, Counselor Bresnahan.
Motion to accept the committee's response.
Second.
Mike McManus is great. I mean, when he gets orders, he writes them on a piece of paper, gives a whole dialogue. He was kind enough to come in that evening. We decided that guardrails, 270 feet of guardrail would cost about $12,000. And what we decided to do is try a flexible ground post, which are those ones that kind of come up through the ground and they move. So we're gonna try that because it's only gonna cost about $2,000, just to try to make safety a little bit stronger around that curve going up to Ashley Reservoir. So that's gonna happen. The guardrails probably are not, but again, defer to the maker of the order.
Counselor Bacon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have an update. In between that meeting and this meeting, I heard from Mr. Conti that the water department will be putting guardrails on the side where the boulders are. And so those other items will go across the street, and I'm hoping on the turn. But we'll defer on that. So that's excellent progress.
Great.
Thank you.
Perfect. Good. So the motion is that it has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 18E, Public Safety was referred in order that HPD monitor speed on Laurel Street and report the findings to Public Safety Committee. Order that has been complied with.
Motion to accept the committee's. Yeah, so this has been an order from 2015 that finally has gotten through and done, and the street has been accepted. It is a formal street. There's other streets that I think Councilmember McGivern may have filed an order about, that we recognize all these little streets that have not been recognized so we can get the Chapter 90 money. Mike McManus told us the street has been accepted and has been paved.
Dan, that's 18F.
Oh, I'm sorry.
18E,
Oh, geez, I flipped the
which
page.
is the speeding.
Oh, the speed on,
Waller.
see, mine, I don't have that set up like that, but it's all right. My apologies. The correspondence we got from the police chief was that that because the speed limit on Lawler Street is 30 miles an hour, the police department conducted a speed study to determine if the limit should be decreased to 25. If the police department concludes the speed needs to be reduced, that they petition the Mass DOT for approval. The police traffic trailer was placed out on Lawler Street. The traffic trailer data showed that the average volume of cars on Lawler Street was 269 per day. The speed limit is 30 miles an hour. The average speed was 14 miles an hour. The 85th percentile speed was 17 miles an hour. Over the past 3 years, there have only been 3 reported crashes taken on Lawler Street. One was for backing out of a driveway and striking a parked car, one for a parked vehicle being sideswiped by an unknown vehicle, and one for a stopped vehicle being rear-ended. Lawler Street does not have speed bump installed in the roadway, which may, in fact, help with reduced speeds. Based on this information, I do not recommend reducing the speed limit to allow the street to 25 miles an hour. James Niswanger, Chief of Police.
Anyone else? The motion is that it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 18F. That public safety, except Liberty Street, which runs to Dartmouth and Jefferson. I think this is the one you're just giving us information on. So motion.
Motion
This
has
has been complied with. That is seconded. Counselor Bresnahan.
It's been accepted and it's been paved. So if there's any streets out there that they want to be accepted, send them my way. We'll start moving. Now that we know how the process is done, it's actually pretty simple. That was way too long for that to have happen, and I apologize for that, but we'll move on to the next ones.
Anyone else? If not, motion has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 18G, the Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that the city engineer, DPW, review the intersection of Hamden and Nonotuck Street to ensure the lighting configuration and signage are adequate to ensure a safe way for drivers. Order that's been complied with.
Motion to accept the committee's report.
Second.
Under discussion?
Sure. A traffic study has not been performed in this area. Mike McManus came in. The existing signage is adequate according to law for the intersection conditions. Sight distance issues may arise with people parking too close to the intersection.
Yeah.
They recommended that they're going to put in gore lines that could be painted in the parking lanes. Which basically prevents people from parking so close to that corner if you're on Nonotuck Street coming up Hamden. So that's the recommendation, they're gonna give that a shot.
Anyone else? Okay, motion that's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public service.
Mr. President, can we suspend the rules and take 19A, B, C, D, E, and F as a package?
Second?
No way. Okay, yeah, sure. All right, so the motion is suspend the rules, take up all of them as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 19A, for public service is the review, the appointment, for Park and Rec. The B is for Price Armstrong for Conservation Commission. C is the Library Board of Directors. D is Board of Appeals. E is Hoyoke Development and Industrial Corporation, HEDIC. And F is for Commission on Disabilities, all the mayor appointments. All have been confirmed. Let me make sure, confirm.
Yep.
Confirm. All to confirm, so under discussion, Counselor,
We should make a motion to, not only to take them up, but that they be received and approved.
so motion is to receive and adopt the committee report to confirm the appointees. Under discussion, Counselor Lisi?
I wound up chairing because Councilor Leahy was not able to make it due to an award that his son was being awarded that evening. So all of these appointees came with really wonderful resumes and have been very active in the community in different ways, but mostly through volunteer efforts in the community. I'll briefly go through them. So the first one, Israel Rivera. He grew up in Holyoke as an athlete, and he's been involved in the parks as an athlete growing up. Right now, he's working for One Holyoke Development as their community engagement, doing community engagement for that individual. And so the things that he wanted to focus on was building more community events around the parks with the hope of generating some additional revenue streams to support the parks and their upkeep. The commissioner that was vacating the seat, Terry Murphy, came down to the meeting to actually endorse Mr. Rivera as well. Price Armstrong is currently serving on our the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. He's an urban planner himself, and he actually requested to serve on the Conservation Commission because he feels that he has a skill set that would really serve that commission in particular, because he feels that as an urban planner, he could help keep an eye on moving economic development in our city along, but also mitigating the environmental conflicts that come up from time to time, and wants to find balance in compromises. Danielle Brown, I'm going to defer to Councilor McGivern because he wound up chairing. I had to leave a little bit early myself. Hilda Roque came in. She is a long-term resident and business leader. She's also been a social worker in the past, and she knows the license board, the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and zoning laws through her own experiences as a business leader and developing businesses. She is already set up to get some training on understanding how the ZBA approves variances because the hardship has to be demonstrated, and there's only 3 different ways that a hardship may be demonstrated. She's looking forward to serving and being an honest and transparent member of that board. And then finally, Kristen Beam, because I will be deferring Liana Pazialis to Councilor McGivern as well. Kristen Beam is being appointed to HEDIC, and one of the things that she thinks she'd like to contribute to the HEDIC board is developing an iterative process for how to make projects fit and work in the city. She also feels that she wants to, as an at-large member, represent the public and make sure that HEDIC can start to develop new ways to scale incentives for a range of different types of industrial projects that may be coming to the city. She is familiar with brownfields, which is an important question that Councilor Sullivan asked at the meeting. And she is looking forward to helping HEDIC. And that's the bunch that I can handle.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I just want to note on the HEDIC appointment, a good suggestion. I disclosed as I am a member of HEDIC, and that although I don't have a conflict because I have no financial gains or anything to gain by it, I did step down for the purpose of the interview of Ms. Beam, and Councilor Bartley stepped in and did a fantastic job because he also stuck out the rest of the night as we did the final 2 appointments, and Mike Sullivan filled in too. I think our math wasn't the best because it's a 3-member committee, but at one point we had 4 people acting on the committee, but it worked out great. But and I think the 2, Danielle Brown was a great interview. I asked her a question about the library, and it's still being a struggle as to the point in time where the Friends of the Library and the actual board of the library is formally going to become one under the city umbrella because there are numerous amount of city employees, and it is a city budget, and it is owned by the city. But Ms. Brown had a tremendous amount of background. She shared both her professional experience with us and her workplace ethic. Seems like she'd be a great fit for the board. She's already been participating in some things over there. One of the more interesting interviews of the evening was Liana Pazialis, if I'm saying it correctly, Liana, I hope so. She is looking to serve and has been nominated by the mayor to serve on the Disabilities Commission. She came in with and we were used to talking about handicap parking. She had a slew of issues that she wants to address with the commission, all of them very relevant. If I remember correctly, she has a handicapped child, and she has some history with disabilities, and wants to be able to give her time and her knowledge to the city. And we welcomed her, and she said, "You're going to be seeing a lot of me, so just fair warning."
Anyone else?
I do want to just note.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councilor.
And perhaps Councilor Bartley was going to say this himself, but Councilor Bartley asked everybody if they felt that they could be a strong voice, an independent voice on the body, despite being mayoral appointees, and they all agreed that they were looking forward to having an independent voice, and that they were each bringing a strong set of personal values to the positions that they were fulfilling.
Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, I just want to point out two things, Mr. President. It was actually a wonderful meeting because when I first came on the board here, I served in that committee under Pete Tallman, and so it was and that was really a rewarding experience. And then I want to compliment the mayor. This is a really great batch of appointees, all in volunteer positions. I thought each person came in showing a lot of confidence and a lot of energy relative to the city of Holyoke, especially Mr. Rivera, who I kind of knew of and really got a really good warm impression. He's replacing Mr. Murphy on the Park and Rec Commission, a really important board that has quite a bit of authority. And Mr. Murphy was actually here to recommend him to us. And the last thing I want to mention, Mr. President, is the reason that myself and Councilor Sullivan sat on the committee is because the rule change, fortunately, we adopted it. And it's a change to Rule 31, which allows any member sitting here to serve as on the committee. It has nothing to do with seniority. It's just whoever the chairperson is can pick any sitting counselor here to serve for that agenda item until a regular member of the body comes in. And that's Rule 31. And I just want to make sure that we who are chairs keep that in mind because, out of respect to the public and to the mayor's appointees, if we weren't here, it wouldn't have had a quorum.
Don't have it.
I mean, that's no way to run a railroad. So, but it worked out, and we were happy to. I speak for myself. I was really happy to serve on the committee that night.
Yeah, Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, I think that's great, that rule. I mean, it could happen to any other meeting. Yeah, we need somebody there, and for these people to come down here. And then, it's happened before, a year or two ago, where we didn't have a quorum and we couldn't pull anybody in. And that's not a good thing because you have something set up. But I really respect the people that stepped up and these people that are really engaging in city politics and city government to help out because a lot of times people just don't want to do anything, don't want to chip in. But and then the discussions here and the people that are coming forward are really people with a lot of good skill sets, and it's really you need those people. It's not just us; it's the people out there that bring in these skill sets that really make the city run. So appreciate that.
Anyone else? So the order is that we confirm all appointees A through F. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mr. President, can we suspend rules, take 20A and B as a package? And you can
Second.
do abbreviated reading rules.
Take 20A and B. 20A is that the DGNR committee, whom was referred, Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, Ohio Code of Ordinances, that the city declare parcel 277 Main Street as surplus. And B is same rule, but to declare property known as the Springfield Turn Hall on Vernon Street as surplus. Those are the two. So for suspension of the rules, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to receive, adopt the committee report, and declare those two properties surplus.
Second.
All right, so we have A and B. It's receive, adopt to declare surplus. It was seconded. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
So again, this is a good job by Office of Planning and Economic Development, getting tax-title properties, at least declaring them surplus and figuring out what we can do with them. One is let's just take the first one first, which was a little vacant lot, 277 Main. That's near Enlace, Mr. President. It's across from that the gas station on the corner of Cabot and Main, and it's kind of in between. I think it was a Kaye Social Club and something else that were there. It's kind of a vacant lot. So Marcos didn't have a specific plan that he announced, but I think there's something percolating relative to those three properties, and that little vacant lot in between might be dynamic. The other one is kind of a very interesting one, the Springdale Turn Hall. And so that being in Ward 2, Marcos happened to mention that it may require a zone change because of the zoning is the DR, downtown residential. But if you look at the zoning language, there's a lot of flexibility in that DR zone, which I think the ordinance committee at the time did a really nice job because it gave some room in there for for special permits and things of that sort to do a combination of commercial and residential. But Marcos happened to mention possibly we'd need a zone change, and see, that's a pretty dense neighborhood in that part of Springdale. That might be a little tricky for a zone change over there. But we as a body felt that was important. And just for a reminder to the board that this requires a 2/3 vote to declare a surplus. If and when it comes back before us, which it has to come back before us, it would require at that point to dispose of it a majority vote.
Anyone else? Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'd like to thank Marcos for bringing these forward. There's a couple properties that parking lot down there on Main Street. I think it used to be the old cleaners, and we had to clean that building up. It was a fire or whatever, and that might be able to be used by, one of the little restaurants down there as like a little parking, outdoor area or whatever. And Vereen, your ward 2. I go back 50 years there. When I used to be in the Jamboree, we used to have our hot dogs and hamburgers back there in Turn Hall, Little League. And that building is something, that is in disrepair right now. I mean, I think Councilor Sullivan stated it's just about falling apart, and they got animals in there, and it's in tough shape. But we could do something with that building and try to, put it on the market and really free that up, that area, and try to make that area a little bit more cleaner.
Anyone else? Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, in regards to that building, this is another example just to, since we've had some discussions on it tonight where our demolition supervisor went in there, did a complete survey of the building. They had to bring in outside help. The place was infested with raccoons, skunks, possums. The basement, as they did their survey, has a snowman boiler, which for those that don't know, it's asbestos-coated boiler. All the pipes are asbestos. The ceiling's leaking, and the building's beyond rehabilitation. So it's time to declare this surplus and move on.
Anyone else? There's no further discussion. The order is that we receive and adopt and declare 20A and 20B, the two parcels, as surplus. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for both.
McGivern?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Tallman?
Yes.
Bacon? Valentine?
Yes.
Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Bartley?
Yes.
Bresnahan? LeBrun Martinez?
Yes.
Lisi?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
11 yeas.
With your vote, you approve the parcels being declared surplus. 20C, from the Development and Government Relations, who was referred that the City Council invited in the board members and/or administrator of Holyoke Media in order to discuss the following. Motion that has been recommended that has been complied with. Our discussion.
Yep, motion to receive and adopt the committee's recommendation.
Second.
Under discussion, Mr. President?
Yes.
I'm going to really try to give this seeing the late hour here, I'm just trying to really give us a summary. The Holyoke Community Media, Inc. is a nonprofit corporation that is a successor to Holyoke PEG Access, and Holyoke PEG Access is Holyoke Public Education and Government Access, Inc. So, Mr. President, I think this is going to fall on your shoulders now, because there is a board. And we had before Scott McPherson, Al Williams, and Jennifer Miskowski, and they were all extremely straightforward and helpful. I greatly appreciate all their efforts they put into it. There's just a lot of money involved with this organization. It's close to $2 million. We know that 15% of it's going to go to school. Basically, 85% is controlled by Holyoke Community Media, Inc. It's a lot of money. Yes, with a lot of money, you can do a lot of good things, and you can say you're going to do a lot of good things, and that's important. But there's got to be somebody from the City Council, Mr. President, that's on that board. And if we look at the agreement, which was handed to me that night, but I happen to have a chance to read it, if we look at the agreement between the mayor and this organization dated 23 September 2016. It calls for an appointee of the mayor, appointee of the city council, and appointee of HPS. And right now, it's none of the above. I mean, there's nothing there. I think Councilor McGivern said it that night, and I'm not gonna, I put words in my mouth because I took notes of what he said. The mayor did this without our input, and it wasn't right. So, but Joe also said, and I agree, we have 3 really competent people before us, but there's got to be somebody appointed by the president of this board, and he's got to be involved, and it's got to give some regular feedback to us. It's just a lot of money. I mean, nearly $2 million. It's $90,000 going in there every quarter. So, I mean, it's just a lot of cash coming in. And when you have that kind of cash flow and nobody from really the public looking at it, I don't think that's the best practice, especially when the agreement between the mayor and them, it's in, I'll give you the exact. I had it at one point. The section 13. So it's there, right there, page 9, section 13. So you can look up for yourself. That's where the appointees come from. With that, I thought the committee asked, and we had them before for about an hour. Committee asked a lot of really good questions. There's a lot of positive things they can do. I just want to finish on this note. We do have a channel 12 and a channel 15. And it looks like we're also going to have a channel 23. Mm-hmm. So we now have a 3rd public access channel. Actually, I lied. I make one other note. I said this before. Again, I got laughed at, but it's okay. I got laughed at 3 years ago when I brought this up in this body. I said, "You're a public access with TV. Why don't you have your meetings on camera?" Oh, what a joke! Well, I mean, this cable TV money, Mr. President. Why can't they have their board meetings on camera? I mean, they have studios. They're building a studio over there. They should at least film it and post it to the city's website. So the particular folks in front of us that night, they didn't say yes, but at least they didn't laugh at me this time. So that was some progress. And with that, I'll turn it back to the president.
Councilor McGivern?
Just a couple of small additions. I think Councilor Bartley said it very appropriately. But I just wanted to add that the group that met, two of the members are members of the board that I've now been in meetings with 3 different times on different occasions, and their message has been the same, consistent. Their mission statement, their goals are all about what they're looking at in terms of what Holyoke Media is going to be, what they vision Holyoke Media to be. What they bring to the table is incredible. The president has the experience with Northampton and I believe she's a secretary, David. Her name's slipping me, but she has experience with a number of things in terms of finances and a good handle on what's going on. I didn't like the way PEG Access evolved from what it was till this. I've been public about that. I don't think it's something that we can reverse. But I will say, and I've gotten a glimmer of hope from our acting auditor, that not only is it someone that should represent us on the board, Mr. President, as Councilor Bartley says, but we need to know that there are steps in process through our auditing department of financial accountability for this. And that's, at the moment, has not been an issue. But down the road, members of boards come and go. Things, change. And it's when you fall asleep at the switch that the train goes down the wrong track and damage can be done very quickly. The glimmer of hope is the state, Holyoke is not unique to this. The state is recognizing that they need to have some type of language statute that governs a lot of this on how it works. And even though it's money that is funneled, negotiated by the mayor, comes from the ratepayers, it's funneled through the city, and I'm hoping that the state comes up and says, yes, these cities have some responsibility in terms of accountability. There will be outside accountants assigned to these groups, but still, I think we need our auditing department to have at least the thumb on the financials, and hopefully we'll get more news about that in the near future.
Councilor Tallman?
Yeah, that's really what it's all about is having a handle on it, and Councilor McGivern said that, right? It was that this is going to be open to all residents of the city, this community, this access to the TV, doing shows and having programs and having especially the students come down there and to learn how to do things. And the money does come from the cable subscribers, and everybody pays a portion of that out of their bill. So, but it is a lot of money, as Councilor Bartley said. So I think trying to keep an eye on that. I mean, they have an accountant. They had the sheets that stated how much was received. And in the beginning, even though it sounds like a lot of money, a lot of that money is going to the building and equipment, and just starting off, a lot of that money is going to be used up. But 90,000 or whatever a quarter is a lot of cash coming in. But everything that they said they're going to do, and they're very open that they would come down here anytime they want. But I definitely see that the council has to have some say in somebody on that board to oversee things and to get back to us on a regular basis. So it was really an informative meeting. It was a while. It was about an hour. I think we really peppered him with a lot of questions, and it was really a very informative meeting.
I'll also add one thing. I guess Councilor, I did have Scott call me after your meeting and asked. We played phone tag and then finally got a hold of him. He asked what procedure, what would you like in order to comply with the city council, because he's new to it in the sense of updates, monthly reports, quarterly reports, how have you. And then he said that they will be asking for a member to be put on the board. So I put that out there because I can either pick one of you or one of you can volunteer, as Kevin used to say. So with that, he said he's going to get back. Well, he's going to get back to me on it. So I'll get more details in the sense of that. And if we already have a volunteer, thank you.
I saved you all the trouble.
Volunteer right there. All right. The new guy, yeah. Awesome.
But,
Scapegoat.
but he was very proactive in the sense of whatever you guys want, tell them. And I said the best way is to get the communications or the reports that when they have their meetings sent up to either Ryan or the clerk's office in order to be put on the agenda or get to all of us. And he said that wouldn't be a problem. So if there's other things, Scott seemed to be very open to help out. I did follow up saying, we're still waiting on microphones that actually don't look from, 1970s. And he said that was going to happen during the summer when we took our break. Because he said they're going to be in here for a while, and he didn't want to disrupt anything. So the hope, the intent, barring any incident, would be they come in during our break to then fix some of this stuff up. Councilor Sullivan? Okay. So 20C, if there's no further discussion or that's been complied with, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 21, Charter and Rules Committee. 21A, the Committee on Charter and Rules referred an order that a permanent agenda item, reports and ad hoc committees be put into the minutes, not the minutes, but the order. Recommended that be adopted, adding it to Rule 26.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee reports.
Second.
Motion is receive and adopt. Under discussion,
Yes,
Councilor Rose.
thank you, Mr. President. This order was actually filed by Councilor Lisi, and I want to thank Councilor Lisi for filing this order. Just being a new committee chair last term and knowing the headache that the poor clerk's office had to go through to get the joint committee added to the agenda, our committee felt it best to actually work with the clerk's office on this and see if we could just simply add it to the beginning of the agenda where it says reports of committee, maybe in parentheses put standing and ad hoc, and at the end of this section after joint committee just say ad hoc committee reports, if any. But we want to thank Councilor Lisi for this, nice and simple, but I do know the long process, exhaustive process, and I do want to thank the clerk's office on getting the joint committee on there after 2 years, so maybe, I'm not sure, and I know it's a software issue, and I thank the clerk and all her staff for all that work. And maybe we could try to add this instead of making it too difficult for you, Madam Clerk, but I'll deflect to you and I'll deflect to the maker of the order if they want to add anything or any of the committee members.
Thank you. Does the clerk want to weigh in at all in terms of what would be easiest? Motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules, allow the clerk to speak. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll just have to talk to the IT department. I know the last time we had some issues with getting the committee on here, and we also had some issues when the council number dropped to 13, because the person that created the database for this is not even working for the same company, so it was hard to track him down, but we can probably just try to change a title, like you said, so I'll see what we can do.
So one thing that I would say, if I may continue, is if we could have a separate line item in the same way that we have president's report or reports of the committees for the ad hoc committees, I think that that's going to actually be the most straightforward way, because if we do reports of committees and ad hoc committees, then you would need some sort of breakout in the same way you have public safety committee reports, unless you have in the same way that it's 16 and then 16A, B, C, you have a number dedicated to the ad hoc committees, so you don't have to actually list them out individually.
Yeah, I can say right now that we definitely can't do it like a committee like this, like an ordinance or finance or anything, because then it's going to have members listed underneath it. The program makes you do that. So I definitely don't think it can be done that way, but it probably can be done, like as if a public comment, a president's report, something like that.
Yeah, and I think that would work better overall, because the actual ad hoc committees that exist are changing all the time, and people are moving out of committees. There's different projects that we work on, and I think we just need something to remind us all that we have representatives of the council out there serving on different committees throughout the city, and it would be great if we could hold a space for updates from those different counselors serving on various committees throughout the city. Yeah, so whatever works for you, Brenna. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
I'm in favor of this, but just two reminders. One, any city councilor serving on an ad hoc committee or on another commission or board can be there for different reasons. They only represent the city council if it's been ordained by the president or by this body by vote. They could be appointed by someone else and not representing the city council, but I do understand we're always wearing our city council hats. Two, more important is there is nothing I can think of that can come out of an ad hoc committee report that we could take a final vote on, because that would circumvent our rules that none of our committees do make recommendations but do no final actions, but don't make recommendations on anything unless the full city council put it in committee. And I don't think that's a problem, but I just wanted to make that as a reminder.
Good point. Anyone else? With that, the motion that the
Order has been complied with.
order has been complied with by adding to Rule 26, Section 9, or the way that the clerk can handle it?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 21B, the Committee on Charter and Rules was referred in order that the City Council extend the search and scope for the city auditor position by changing the residency requirement. Order that has been adopted. Sorry.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion is receive and
Second.
adopt. Under discussion, Councilor Roman.
Yes, thank you. This was filed by our council president. We had a long discussion, and, myself, along with Councilor Vacan and I being, this body's done great, tremendous work of strengthening actually our residency requirements for all department heads. So I want to thank this body for doing that work. I was cautiously in support of this. I just wanted to say that on the record, and I said that the day of the meeting, that yes, we want to expand the scope. This is an extenuating circumstance. We keep trying to get an auditor in this position and role, and we seem to be having some difficulty, and we had some candidates, and then they didn't drop in, or they did. And so we're hoping that this will expand our search and our scope for our auditor position. But I just want to say, as this chair of Charter and Rules, I've already received requests or conversations to change 2 or 3 others to eliminate this. But I want to say this body strengthened residency requirements. We did a very exhaustive process, and I thank Councilor Vacan for taking that up as well. So just for this specific extenuating circumstance, the committee felt that we should adopt this report, change the residency requirements for our city auditor position, and hopefully we can get some more candidates. But I just wanted to express to this body that this doesn't mean that this is going to open up Pandora's box, or that we're going to start changing every single, department head. We did a great job of strengthening it, but this is an extenuating circumstance.
Counselor Bacon and Counselor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would echo Council Roman's comments. I think when we're faced with practical realities, sometimes as much as we have strong philosophical beliefs on certain things, we have to try a new approach. And so, not happily, but as a practical matter, we felt that this was important to do. Thank you.
Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, I'd like to support this also, since we've already negotiated away all of our other residency requirements. That's it.
Well, let me thank the committee for taking this up. As we know, we've advertised this position over and over. This is one of the positions we need to fill as soon as possible. I will echo what has been said. I'm not in favor of opening up the box to allow all positions to go. But this one specifically, and I want to be on the record for it, this one specifically, we need to. And salary is also an issue when it comes to this position. We've heard that time and time again from other experts. So with that, anyone else? Motion? Good. 44, no, we have not gotten there yet. No problem. So with that, the motion is to receive and adopt the residency change requirement. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 21C, Charter and Rules, that the City Council review and hold a public hearing on the rules of the City Council to make any recommendation and changes, or that's been complied with.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion is to
Second.
receive and adopt. Under discussion,
Yes,
Councilor Roman.
thank you, and I want to thank Councilor Bacon. Actually, we've done an exhaustive couple meetings where we've looked at the rules, and specifically for this one, Councilor Bacon brought up a very good point. We have some rules that aren't being followed or complied with, so do we need them if that's the case, number one? And number two, specifically for today with regards to late file orders, I happen to agree with my colleague that I personally feel that the late files have become a way to circumvent open meeting laws. The fact that we had received 2 documents today that were dated today as late file emergencies in response to something that happened in committee yesterday, which I think could just be filed and go on our committee, available for the public, the media. I just think that it's a new way for us to circumvent, but the president did reassure us. We reviewed that rule, saying that the president gets to make that determination of those 10 orders, of those 10 late file orders, and outside of those 10, those will automatically go on the next agenda, and that our president would be extremely scrupulous with that. So with that, we didn't make any definitive changes. If anyone in this body still wants to look at specific changes, this was to look at the document overall, but I think that we did a really good job of discussing that. And I thank Councilor McGivern, who joined us too, and we looked at the document overall as a whole. And with that, I'll deflect to any of the committee members.
Councilor McGivern?
I went to and I appreciate the chairman's comments, I went to the committee meeting to purposely discuss one of the rules that, have always, I think, had a profound impact on the way we conduct business. And I was a little disappointed because the committee decided not to take it up, but that would be rule number 9, which I'll quickly read. Questions shall be propounded in the order in which they are moved unless a subsequent motion be previous in its nature, except in naming the sums of the fixing times to fill blanks. The largest sum and the longest time shall be put first.
It's a good rule.
I like that rule.
Anyone else? All right, the motion is that it has been complied with. All those in favor? All those opposed? We have to go back to 21B. I've been informed by the clerk that it's not a voice vote. It is a roll call with regards to the residency requirement. So motion is to take up 21B again.
Second?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the clerk will call the roll. Once again, this is the residency requirement for the auditor. If you're voting yes, you're voting for the charter change. That's why you need to do a roll call.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the order. And that takes us to joint committee, nothing there. Motions and orders. Before we get to there, I've been holding this card up here just as a reminder, because I knocked it over 3 times over here. We did receive a card. Dear Hoyoke City Council, thank you for the proclamation and your support over the years. You are a very important body and hold the city's future in your hands. Be bold and take risks for the good of the city. Best of luck, Olivia. So we gave her a proclamation. Ryan did go out and get that frame fixed up and got it to her right away, so thank you very much for that. And she sent us a thank you card.
Thank you.
Nice.
With that, motions and orders. 23 is from Councilor Leahy, Department of Public Works, make it a top priority to repave Court Street. Make a motion to receive, adopt, and send to DPW.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 24 from Councilor Lisi, or at the mayor and the city council petition the general court to enact legislation to allow the city of Hoyoke the sale of marijuana products as those terms is defined as 94G, Section 1, for consumption on premises where sold. See legislation drafted, attached.
Motion to receive and send to ordinance.
Motion is received and for the ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Under
Aye.
discussion, Councilor Roman, sorry.
Yeah, no, I just had a question for my colleague or a friendly amendment, just inquiring through you, Mr. President. We're reading and clearly hearing that this actually needs to be done through, don't the residents have to vote to approve the consumption? Isn't that the same thing we've been reading in the news and so on and so forth, that this needs to be voted on by the public, needs to go on the ballot for the public to accept it?
We can find out.
I'm just saying, that's what I've done my research, and so that's what I've heard, that this actually needs to go on the ballot. It needs to be approved by the voters, that they approve this provision, and then we can vote to accept it via ordinance.
Well, we can send it to ordinance. If that's the case, we can then.
Okay.
I mean, if it's nothing we can act on, it's just comply with. We can make a motion to suspend the rules. We have legal raising their hand, and we do have a mic for them now. Or they take
So
that
motion
again.
to suspend the rules to just inquire?
Motion is suspend the rules, allow legal counsel to speak. All those in favor? All opposed?
So we've done extensive training on marijuana legislation. I think I've been to 5 or 6 at this point. The one question that keeps coming up is how to get social consumption allowed. Right now it is in 94G, which is the legislation for recreational marijuana, and they're trying to do a fix to that legislation because the way that they tell you to go about it right now doesn't actually work. So while that is being fixed, we've been in talks with the Cannabis Control Commission, the Secretary of State's office that deals with elections to figure out how we could do this. They actually recommended the special act where we could we're actually asking to put a question on a ballot, but the way that they want us to do it according to the legislation doesn't work right now. So this special act is actually getting the question on the ballot. We're also reserving the right to obtain the new process that we're hoping is coming along, should that be a better avenue than the special act. So it's a very weird, intricate process right now that nobody really has a great answer to, so we're doing what they've told us to do, which is this special act.
Councilor Roman.
So through you, Mr. President, so again, so you're saying that then, in essence, we are asking for it to be put on the ballot?
I believe so, and I don't know if you have language for the special act yet, but that's what this special act is going to do, is to get a question on a ballot.
Thank you. So then, through you,
Just
Mr.
like
Chairman,
any
if I can
other
make
special act.
Yeah, so
if I could make a friendly amendment, then this actually falls in the purview of charter and rules. So if we could just make a friendly amendment to send it there?
It would be an ordinance issue.
Really?
Yeah.
If it's gonna go on the ballot?
Hold on, Councilor McGivern.
I would respectfully request it stays in ordinance. We have another order in there that would go hand in hand for the purpose of discussion, where the original language that we adopted, the buffer zone itself is conflicting with the language of the state, which is a different type of a buffer, which is 500 feet unless otherwise stated within the city language itself. We didn't state any type of buffer of a nature within our language itself. So I filed an order after being requested to do by Economic Development to address that, to see if we want to amend it. And I think these are small things that, and Crystal said it, it's, as we sit here, they seem to change down in Boston every other day.
Councilor Roman.
So, no, just because we also have 2 or 3 other proposed charter changes through special act like the under 16 voting or our recall provision. So it just seems kind of redundant or repetitive to have it in two different places, but I'll deflect to whatever the body wants or the will of the body.
If I may, Mr. President?
Counselor Lisi.
I want to just note two things. So the items that Council Roman just mentioned are charter changes. They're in our charter. But special acts have traditionally gone through the ordinance committee. And as with all special acts, we basically ask the general court to pass local legislation. If it passes through the general court, then it comes back to our residents as a ballot initiative that they then get to vote on. Yeah, but those are things that are in our charter, right?
Hold on, wait, just.
I think the idea
Wait,
here is
hold
if
on,
this,
wait.
if the special act gets passed, this is gonna come back and be an ordinance change. Might make,
Also, Rule
More sense.
32, except as otherwise provided in the city charter or any statute, ordinance, or herein, the city council may refer any matter by majority vote to a different committee other than provided by the above. The above is a list of all committees and what they normally do. So we are,
Yeah, sure. We could always send anything anywhere.
Yep.
The other thing I wanted to state is that I did file this on behalf of the legal department and the mayor, who have, as Crystal just stated, done extensive research on how to move forward on things. I am not necessarily endorsing this. I'm interested in having a conversation to see what the possibilities and impacts may be. So I'm not, just offhand saying, oh, like, we should do this. I think that we should have it in a public venue and have a robust conversation about what's going to be included and what the impacts would be.
Counselor Bresnahan.
No reflection upon the maker of the order, but did anyone get a draft?
There was a draft attached to the order that was filed.
There's a copy, so we can have Ryan get a
We need
copy to everybody.
Okay.
It's attached to the order.
Thank you.
It's attached to the order, just,
To the
it
order.
was not, did you get it?
No, we don't
Okay.
have it in front of us this
All
minute.
right, okay. Just
So-
wanted to be sure.
Ryan will get a copy to everyone, hopefully tomorrow. It's going to committee, so we can get a copy, follow-up copy as well.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Counselor
I
Bacon.
just wanted to comment, this is going to be a complex issue because we have no smoking in the entire city. So if
You
we
need
don't
it.
want carcinogens from tobacco, how are we going to
Gummy
blend
bears.
that with the carcinogens
Gummy bears,
from
chocolate chip cookies,
smoking
brownies.
marijuana?
Eat 'em, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about the smoking aspect. It's going to be
She's
complex.
eating it right now.
She's, hey, you won't know.
That
I mean,
Sharon?
Who would know where you're eating
All
something?
right, so is this
But
going to
anyway,
ordinance?
Just a point.
I think we're falling apart here. So ordinance, all in favor? All
Aye.
Opposed? 25, Counselor McGee, you order that due to the Labor Day holiday and the state primary election, the city council consider canceling the first meeting in September.
Motion to receive, adopt, and,
Did we do that already?
Because we took up stuff Counselor Bartley is having.
We resolved this
I
You
thought
resolved
we
it
moved
already.
the meetings.
the next day. We moved them
moved
both.
Both were moved to next day.
Correct.
But I don't know if we addressed the holiday one. I'm just bringing it up again as because you have the Labor Day and state primary, you're moving both to the next day. I think with the election stuff,
That's on the 5th. And we moved the board meeting to the 6th. Just like the second board meeting that month, we moved it from the 18th to the 19th. Well, we did that last meeting.
yeah, I know we moved the dates around. I thought there was a discrepancy afterwards. That's why I filed this. I'm just trying to remember why. Oh, there's why.
That's why, it's a lot of work after the primary.
Oh,
Election, yeah.
Also, no one will be here for coverage of the meeting if they're doing that. Is that the issue? That's.
I think the train should just keep rolling, because otherwise it just gets stacked up.
Well, then this one can be leave to withdraw. Good. All right, motion is given leave to withdraw. All those in favor? All those opposed? 26 from Councilor McGee, order that the DPW give an update on the status of the speed bumps on George Frost Drive. This was approved in September of 2017.
Mr. President, can you add me to that? Because I get asked this a lot, obviously, because of my
Yeah,
place of
Councilman.
employment.
Could you also add me to that? I have a new resident up there that just moved up there that's really complaining about the speed up there.
Well, the issue is we approved this.
It's there.
It went through ordinance
It's
and everything.
already
It's
there.
done.
So it
Why
just
they
hasn't
haven't
been.
Yeah,
installed,
it's
we
been
don't
an
know.
issue for 5 years on George.
Could I
Yeah,
be
but
added
it
on?
was good. In all, Counselor Vacan did a great job in the committee getting this done in the petition. Yeah,
You've
it's
been
done.
complaining up there for years.
When you take that left?
Councilor President, you?
I'd like to be added onto it because I've never been on an order with Peter Tallman before. And when I'm going to get an opportunity
you-
like this again.
If you would be gracious enough to amend this to add Evergreen and Bray Park to replace the speed humps that are in ordinance.
The original
That's a
speed
bit
humps,
deep.
the original speed humps of the city,
As the first ones.
and were taken out when they were repaved and never put
They
back
are
in.
in ordinance. The people have been calling me ever since I got on the city
one?
council.
Which ones?
Evergreen.
Evergreen, and I think maybe one of them was supposed to be on Bray Park.
Oh.
This is ever since I've been on the council.
I think they're both on
9
Evergreen,
years.
but it's the same, leads
But
into it.
it's right there,
Make
yeah.
a motion to
Joe
amend
leaving the
this
Knights.
to,
Flying up
that the
Evergreen.
DPW
That's
give
my
an
brother.
update on
Yeah, right,
Evergreen speed humps as well.
If you don't mind.
No? All those in favor?
Mr. President,
Thank you.
President, yes, Anthony Soto just called, he'd like to be added to the order.
So bad. 20, so that one, with the amended order, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 27 from Councilor McGee, that the Joint Committee on Schools and City Council invite in the superintendent and police to discuss the safety measures within the schools, new student IDs, security cameras, etc. Motion is received and referred to the Joint Committee.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President, if I could suspend the rules to take up a package of the several items to come.
All right, what do you got?
Second.
If you're ready, starting with item 28,
28,
31,
31,
32,
32,
34,
34,
35, and 36.
5, and 36. Motion to suspend the rules and take up all those. All those in favor?
Aye.
28 is from,
Abbreviated reading, please.
yep, $7,290 from solicitor to education, training, office supplies, in-state travel, and so on. 31 and 32 is from tree climber, $42,500 to contract forester. 32 is stabilization of $142,000, $52.84 to pay for, it looks like police. And then you said 35.
32
Is
is
from
firefighters.
Fire, sorry. 35 is stabilization, 50,000 for land taking. 36 is 275,000 from stabilization to pay for motor vehicles. Is there a motion for all those?
Motion would be to receive, refer to Committee on Finance.
Motion is receive, refer to finance,
Second.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Just, no,
Councilor
I'm not looking to discuss, but the $142,000 is the corrected order because that originally came in with the deputy chief, the fire chief, and the firefighters all together. And we asked the auditor to separate it for this meeting. The contract itself is still in committee being discussed. Our next meeting is Monday, the 11th, which we hope to finalize the end of this year and have it ready for our final city council meeting on the 19th.
So all to finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 8.
Mr. President, if we could suspend the rules and take 29 and 30 together.
Motion is to take
Second.
29, 30 as a package, suspend the rules, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 29 is from patrolman to injured on duty, firefighters to injured on duty, $9,000, one's for 4th.
Motion to pass the first reading and for the purposes of adopting the routine
Motion is
vote.
to receive, adopt, pass the first reading, under discussion, Counselor McGivern.
Just the routine vote again, the pay cycle keeps coming up, so the injured on duty, depending how many officers could be or firefighters could be in the category injured on duty, the money has to be transferred from their account into the injured on duty, just for accounting purposes.
5 for firefighters on 30, 2 for patrolmen. So motion is pass the first reading, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. The clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfers.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman.
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tolman.
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Anderson Burgos.
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan.
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi, McGee.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve the transfers. 31, that was sent to, so we're on to 33. From Council Roman, that the DPW immediately trim the tree in front of 346 Elm Street and fix the raised sidewalk. Fourth request.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and adopt.
Motion is receive, adopt, and send to
Second.
DPW. Do you want to send a copy to Public Safety to make sure we bring them in, or?
Yes, and can I also send a copy to the mayor's office, please? And if I can, Mr.
Yep.
President?
Under
Mr.
discussion?
President, if I could just make a motion to suspend the rules. Councilor Roman's order here is breaking and violating our rules. We are to go alphabetically by listing of our names, and his name is stuck in the middle of some guy named McGivern.
Typo.
But you got to go first.
Yes, Mr. President, and thank you, members of this body. We've approved this 4 times in this body. This resident has been waiting since 2016 when we first passed this order. For this, I personally brought the mayor, the DPW chief to her home, and she's been trying to contact recently within the last couple months to get her. There was a postman who actually almost tripped a couple weeks ago, and I emailed again. She continuously calls DPW, she calls the mayor's office, and no action has been done. And what happens when you go down to the, under the hall? They say, well, it's the city council's fault, it's the councilor's fault.
Call your city
They didn't do what
councilor.
they're doing. And so this is just to go on record for the 4th time in a row that this body since 2016, November of 2016 was the first time we approved this, that we again, for the 4th time, are requesting that this is done. So I thank you all for passing this again. I apologize for putting this forward again. But this poor constituent, literally, I've had to print out all my emails since 2016 so she can meet with the mayor's office again to prove that this has been, our body has done our job. There's nothing else we could do. Thank you.
So the motion is to receive, adopt, send to a copy to the mayor and a copy to Public Safety, just to make sure they follow up. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 37 from Council Roman. Sure we got everything? We didn't miss anything? Okay. 37 is that section 86-106, section I, number 3, Elm Street of the city ordinances be amended to include 340, 342, 344, 346, 348.
Ordinance.
350. Motion to send to ordinance.
That's
All in favor?
resident-only parking.
Oh,
We, yeah.
Package.
Oh, the rest are just approved. Oh, yeah.
38.
30, motion to suspend the rules, take up 38, 39, 40, 41, all as a package.
Motion to suspend rules, take up 38, 39, 40, and 41. All those in favor? All opposed? 38 is DPW repair of the pothole at 318 Elm Street. 39 is no parking at the corner of Hamilton and Main Street. Be updated. DPW repave or repair the lower part. Potholes are creating a safety hazard. 41 is DPW city forester cut down overgrown vegetation.
Motion to receive and adopt.
Motion
send
is to
DPW.
receive, adopt, and send to the appropriate places, which should be DPW.
Mr. President, point of order.
Yes, Councilor Bartley.
Does 39 require a zone, an ordinance change?
It's
Already
no
one there.
parking from corner, it's just an update on the sign.
Right.
So it's already there.
It's just really worn down, you can't even see it.
Gotcha.
So for all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 2 from Council Roman, that the city council recognize with an official proclamation the following HPS staff during the Morgan School shooting.
Motion to receive and adopt, if I may, Mr. President.
Motion is to receive, adopt, and order Council Roman.
Yes, thank you. I just want to let my colleagues know that literally in the last 12 months, we've seen the death of 2 young men in South Holyoke. There was a bullet hole found in one of the classrooms at Morgan School. And last week, believe it or not, there was a shooting next to the school. The children heard it. They had a lockdown procedure, and I want to thank all the teachers at Morgan Schools and the principals. But one of the individuals who was actually running away from getting shot at tried to enter the building for safety. And these staffers and the crossing guards actually put themselves in their way to get the kids back in the building. And it was a scary situation for a lot of the kids. Parents were crying, kids were crying. But these two staff members, the receiver, the principal, we've had 2 community meetings. We're trying to address these issues in South Holyoke. I want to thank the Holyoke Police Department. I want to thank the teachers, but specifically this one staffer physically put their body in the way to stop this person from coming into the school building. And then the crossing guard literally put all the kids back in the minute he heard the gunshots. So I'd like to invite them in for our next meeting and to recognize them and just let the body know that this happened. Thank you.
With regards to the crossing guard,
Yeah, they don't want their name specifically, but we'll just draft one thanking them, and then we'll bring it down to the individual, but they just didn't want their name to be publicly
just want
put
to make
out
sure
there.
we do it correctly.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? So the motion,
Add it to that. If I could.
Oh, yeah.
that count?
I think all of us should be added. Dave should go first.
Counselor
Well, I'll
Bartley.
just say this, I don't want to go after, I want to go after Miners and Burgos, but I did serve as a big brother at Morgan School for a couple of years, so I got to know that school pretty darn well. And my little brother is doing actually fantastic, so we still keep in touch. So we did a lot of good things at that school, and I think the only thing he really learned from me is how to play chess, but and he kicked my person a lot towards the end, so there's that.
Believe me, he learned a lot more.
So adding everyone, the motion is to receive and adopt. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 43. We're getting close to 44. Counselor Sullivan, order that the water department hire a full-time police officer. So motion would be to,
Public safety?
motion would be received for the public safety, copy to water department to have them come in.
Yep.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Could I speak to this
Oh,
for?
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, just quickly, just for a minute, so everybody can get this in their heads before the budget hearings. I've already met with the water department. They spent money last year with the Mass Environmental Police and with private security firms, and they're willing to reallocate that money to the Holyoke Police Department. So as we get into the budget process, there are some funds or some other cuts we may be able to make as this gets reallocated, if it's the will of the body to do something, take a move like this. So.
All right, so to public safety. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 44. From Counselor Sullivan and Counselor Bartley, order that the committee be formed to study the future and make the recommendation on the future use of Whiting Reservoir. $1.5 million in repair and upgrades to the dam and spill water needed. The state will still order that the water be drawn down 6 feet. Is there a motion for this to send to
DGR?
Yeah, second.
DG? Motion is to send to DGNR under discussion. Counselor Sullivan or Counselor Bartley? Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, I mean, this is something, I think it's going to be controversial. It's going to be tough because we've had other attempts to do stuff up in that area. But right now, if we don't do something, that's going to look like hell when they drain that reservoir down. And that is going to happen. And then the decision's going to be in front of us, whether it's bonding or what, to spend $2 million, you know? I mean, the number's 1.5 now. That's just the state estimate on what they want done. That's not the engineering studies or anything else that we're going to go through, and escalation in cost. And there's going to be no water ever for the use of Holyoke ever drawn out of that reservoir. All right. There was some discussion about being able to sell water to the town of South Hadley. Talked to people there. They draw water out of Quabbin, and they're sitting on a very large aquifer. That will never happen. That's been confirmed by Dave Conti. There is a remote possibility that 50 years from now, somewhere down the line, maybe we might sell some water to East Hampton. So we're going to spend $2 million to keep it as is, just to ride some bikes around and walk around and have no recreational value. You can't put canoes out there, you can't put sailboats out there, you can't fish there. So it's time to look at what can really be done with this non-revenue, non-recreational, legal recreational piece of property. Or spend the money just so we can continue to keep it like it is, $2 million.
Counselor
Yeah,
Bartley.
we'll hammer it out in committee, and we'll talk about it. But I just want to make a friendly amendment to send a copy to Charter and Rules, because if we do form an ad hoc committee, I just want it to be, I want it to be over there as well. So, and I know we can transfer between committees, but I just want it on the public record now. And then, I guess I get a second for that, I suppose.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. And then I'm really happy to be a part of this order because, I mean, as much as we expect the water commissioners, I mean, that is just a major asset of the city that sits there dormant. I mean, at some point, we've got to have a frank discussion about it. And this, if the time's not now, I don't know when it would be. So I mean, it's a great asset. I think it could be a financial benefit to the city and among many other things. So, thank you.
The motion was to send
Copy.
to DGNR with a copy to Charter and Rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 45 from Counselor Bacon, that the salary ordinance for pay scales for non-union union employees who have worked in the city for a minimum of 10 years and have not received a raise as confirmed by the treasurer in the past 10 years be increased by 3% so that these employees receive a pay increase.
For the ordinance.
Motion is received for the ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
46, Counselor Valentin. That a handicap sign be placed at 145 Essex Street.
Sent to the Commission for Disabilities and Ordinance.
Order to send an ordinance with a copy to Commission on Disabilities. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 47.
48.
We did. 48. From Counselor Bartley, that DPW fix the berm at 62 Memorial
Motion
Drive.
to receive, adopt, and refer to DPW.
Motion is
Second.
receive, adopt, refer to DPW. All those in favor? All opposed? 48.
Abbreviated breeding into
49.
DGR.
Order that Mass General Law 30B, the Hoyle Council declare 55 Hamilton Street as surplus. Motion is to
DGR.
receive and send to
Second.
DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 50 from Councilor Bartley, that the city of Hoyoke change the ordinance and discontinue PVTA bus stop 0488 on P20 route.
Refer to ordinance and
Second.
send a copy to PVTA, please.
Motion is to send the ordinance with a copy to PVTA. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 51, we did. 52 from Councilor Bresnahan, that the treasurer provide an update on the list of top 100 tax delinquent
Yeah, please
property
add my
owners.
name to that, Mr. President.
Adding Councilor
Mine as well.
Bartley,
Valentine.
Johnson. Who else? Roman, Councilor McGee.
On his behalf, I'll make a motion to receive, adopt, and send to the
Motion is to
treasurer.
receive, adopt, and send to treasurer, going to where, just come back with a report to the council.
Is a copy to finance?
Copy to finance, okay. With a copy to finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now we're going into the late files.
How many?
There's 10? 10, they made the quota, 10.
God, what? How are there 10 late files?
They better be emergency.
Motion to place all 10 late files on the next meeting.
This is crazy.
McGivern.
Okay,
I make a motion to put all those 10 late files on the next meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
it was seconded, all those in favor?
President,
I
don't even know what they
Counselor,
are.
under discussion, Counselor McGivern.
Rule book out.
I can get no rope book out. If you do that, okay, you just added another city council meeting to this year.
That's right.
And we're already trying to get dates for our budget hearing. I haven't seen the late files, but I know one of them is a financial transfer, which I may or may not be in favor of. But the final finance committee meeting is this coming Monday. The firefighters did go to the mayor to ask that he would reconsider the money for the contract that they have, so that stabilization would not be the only choice the city council has. that any financial transfer in there or anything that we have to act on by the 19th needs to be received this meeting to get it into committee. And I understand the feelings about late files, and I share those feelings, and I've worked hard with department heads and mayors in this area to get them used to getting these things onto the agenda. But this one came up after last night's meeting, or one of these 10 came up after last night's meeting. But for the purpose of timing, and as much as, you know, we got 3 budget hearings and a meeting already, if we don't receive the items tonight, or at least let's hear what they are, then we're just adding more work to us after the 19th.
Counselor Valdez.
Councilor Roman was first, so. Okay.
Oh, no, we don't worry about it.
Okay. So if we're gonna take the time to do these 10, then I'm gonna propose that at this point, unless it is a true emergency, that things get referred to committee and nothing gets discussed,
Right, right.
and we move forward
Already
very
the rules.
quickly.
That is the rules.
Well, but they always get suspended.
Counselor Roman.
And this goes back to the heart of what I'm saying is the problem. If it's a financial transfer, how on earth am I not going to want to comment on that? Or when I get emails at 4:45, 5:45, 3:45 in the afternoon with late files that I'm supposed to digest and read, that is preposterous, Mr. President. And so my thing is, if this body, right, takes these things up and then I can't debate them, I'm going to want to, and I didn't get the time to digest and read it. A lot of them were communications from the law department. 2 of them were from the law department talking about last night meeting. I don't think that that's necessary at this meeting for us to take up. And if there's a financial transfer that's dire, the end of our fiscal year, yes, is the end of June. So yes, let's take one more meeting. Let's get it on the agenda. Let me take time to digest it. I think we're doing the right thing by sending a message to everyone out there who continuously does this to us, because it's not our body. I don't think any of them come from us. Sometimes, but a majority of them, it's to circumvent. I have to agree with my colleague, Councilor Vacan. It is a continuous attempt to circumvent open meeting laws. Let's just get it on the next agenda and let's wait on it. Oh, you too, Danny. I'm sorry. Let me give you some credit. That was easy.
Yep, the rule, which was changed November 15, 2016, late file orders shall be limited to 10. There's 10. If a late file order is deemed an emergency, the city council president may replace any order on the late file docket that is not emergency in nature. The item replaced shall be placed on the next agenda. So if it's not an emergency, I can always just say, kick it. I didn't vote for that, but that is what the majority wanted. That's your rule. So you have 10. The first one is from Councilor McGivern.
Which I have no idea what it is.
It's 10:30, come on.
I have no idea what it is.
I know, look, this happens in finance a lot, year end. We say not to do it, it still gets done. This is going to be referred, I can pretty much assure you, that the order that $5,150.59 from patrolman to injured on duty.
10 to finance.
Finance, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to suspend the rules to take up tonight.
Late file B, a communication from the mayor on behalf of the school department and the chair of the school committee. Please accept this correspondence regarding a vote to authorize additional funds.
Motion to place on the next agenda.
I haven't heard it yet.
Haven't heard it, yeah.
It's a communication.
Well, within here, though, I think you might, once again, no phone call to me, no nothing.
Oh, my God.
Screw that.
There looks like there needs to be a vote in June, before the end of June.
Well, the next meeting's June 19th.
I'm just,
I know.
don't shoot the messenger.
Why are we discussing?
I'm just trying to read it, and I got yelled at,
Oh.
so, no. Okay, so.
I didn't yell, I made a motion.
To refer to finance. And this comes from Margaret Wood, who's doing the school buildings. Finance?
Finance.
All in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
No.
C is from the building commissioner, June 5th, so the
Motion to
following
place on the next meeting.
response with regards to the number of employees that he has.
Yeah, how many
Well-
does he have?
So,
9.
Nine.
But how
So-
many did he have?
The budget, this year's budget, by the way, has them at 22, because there's obviously, it's either a misprint or.
so refer to,
How many did he have? 5?
well, do you want me to read it, or do you want me to
I
just refer to
couldn't
committee?
hear what's going on. Everybody's
Yeah,
talking at the
so
same time.
here it's just a communication from the building department with regards to the total number of employees that they have.
Copy to finance.
Send to finance. Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
D is from the city auditor to Counselor Bartley. Per your request last night, below is a 4-year impact of the fire union contract, and he gives a breakdown of the numbers from last night's meeting.
Motion to place on the next agenda.
Second.
Motion is put on the next agenda.
Can I have a copy for myself, please?
Finance.
Or do you want us, the motion currently is to send it on the next agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Next agenda?
Nope.
No.
Wait, no.
We haven't even seen.
E,
Read it
Show of
ahead of
hands.
time, though.
Show of hands.
You can still read it ahead of time.
No, I mean, we're gonna play the game, we'll play the game.
all
Show
right,
of hands,
motion
Mr.
to
President.
reconsider. Do you want to send it, motion is to reconsider? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Do you want, motion is to send to finance. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
It's in finance. E, from free cash, $142,052. This is Counselor McGivern. Just kidding, he didn't know about it. To pay for lieutenants, firefighters, alarm, $142,050.84. Motion is to send to
Second.
finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
F is a communication from the city solicitor. On April 17, 2018, the law department received the following legal request or opinion. Do union contracts supersede city ordinances? Can the city ordinance be negated through collective bargaining?
Next agenda.
Second.
Motion to send next agenda.
My desk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It's on,
G.
it's on your desks. He left it on our desks. so-
G is also a communication from the city
Next
solicitor.
agenda.
Second.
Motion to send next agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
The quickest they ever wrote a legal.
H is from Counselor McGee, just to give a proclamation to Kathy Anderson. She is leaving.
Next agenda.
Next agenda.
Next agenda.
Where's she going?
Holyoke Medical.
Does anybody want to do that tonight so we can get it
Because
done?
she is leaving at a certain time frame. But that's fine.
Plus,
There'll be
otherwise, we'd have to wait till August, and that's a miserable time to ask someone to come in.
time. Next agenda.
Next agenda.
Next agenda.
I went from tonight to next agenda?
Yep.
I. The Dear City Council from Damian Cody, the Building Committee. The following is the response to your request. A number of employee. Oh, it's a duplicate.
That's a repeat.
Duplicate.
Oh,
Duplicate.
Leave to
Go
withdraw.
good draw.
Motion is to give leave to withdraw because it's a duplicate.
Aye.
Aye, get it.
Did you miss H?
Favor, all opposed.
Proclamation.
And that is it.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor? All opposed?
You only do 9?
9, because the one was a duplicate.
No, even with the duplicate, you only did 9.
Oh, I miscounted.